Okie dokie. Hello, hello. Oh, hold on. I goofed up. I goofed something up. Gotta change my stream title. Because right now, my YouTube stream says I'm streaming with Casey Snow. I'm not. That was last stream, which was on Monday. Um, Painting fantasy landscapes in Clipstudio. That'll work. And let's see. Let's see. I think that's it. I think I start. So today, hello everybody. Today I am going to continue, well, not on this. I'm not going to continue on this, but I'm going to continue on adding these paintings. So I have a couple paintings to add to the world map. So the world map being this. Actually, you know what? Let's open up the real file so I can paint on the proper file because it is. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna add them to this. I should probably make like a new. Whatever. I think this file's small enough. What is that? Okay. Random things. Oh, those are numbers. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, today I'm gonna add a little icon or a symbol for a town that's gonna be right here. It's gonna be this, and then this when if you imagine it were an interactive map, which it is not yet, but if you imagine it were, then you would click on the icon that will soon be here, and it would be this image because that's gonna be the image. But I do gotta think about this a little bit because sun's clearly coming in from the left side. And so if we were to put that image here, for example, that might be weird because then the sun would be coming in from the right side. It's a little hard to do the left side. Maybe we'll do like a passage through here. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do like a... Okay, I got an idea. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be painting on this. It's not going to take very long. And then I might start another painting. I don't actually think I have any more paintings that I need to add to this. I think maybe... No, this one we already did. I should probably clean that one up, though. And then we did... What was this? Oh, I don't know if I want to add that one to this map. I don't like this painting. I don't love it. I was going to say I don't hate it. I kind of... Well, maybe not. Hate's a strong word. I don't love it. Let's put it that way. Maybe I'm not going to put that on the map. I don't know. I probably should, and then just delete it later. But no, I think I... Oh, wait, no, we have the fishing village. Hold up. We do have another painting. The last painting we did was a little, like, fishing town. This one. This one can go on the map. So I have two paintings today. I mean, this one I don't love either. The colors are weird. This weird green is just unsettling. But that's okay. That's okay. We don't need... Also, I forgot I don't have my webcam on. There we go. So yeah, it's a little strange. But I think we can add this one. And we'll add this one here. And that'll be what I do today. So yeah, that's the thing. That's what's happening. That's my plan. Hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, last stream, for those who missed it, was a kind of an early time. Definitely earlier than normal. I did a stream with Casey Snow. We did some camel studies. I can share those off for anybody who missed it. We did some camel painting. Very not super in-depth in terms of learning anatomy, but I did learn some stuff, like general shapes, maybe some proportional stuff. Learning about how the bones are in the things, in the legs. And they have their wonky legs. Yeah, stuff looks funny. But anyway, we learned some things. I think I had more than this. In fact, I know I had more. What happened to the rest of my images? Oh, here it is. So yeah. Some stylized... I don't... Technically, this is like a real... It's a llama. Or whatever it is, an alpaca probably. And I realize this is not exactly proportional, but I feel like there's some fun like shape language stuff and design because of the way it's as a haircut. I think it's funny. But anyway, yeah, there's some stuff like some camel studies. It was fun. I had a good time. Hopefully people who were here did too, but yeah, definitely a little unusual for what I normally do. So today we're gonna paint on the map. Hey, Commissar Skull, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. So let me open up a Puref file so I can actually put my own images on my screen properly. So these images, I'm going to print my own screen, take a screenshot. Whoops, what did I just do? There, something like that. So now I can take these images. I don't need that one or that one. This one can go in here. Commissar Skull, how's it going? How's the day? Hope you're doing well. How's the arting been going? Do you have any stuff you'd like to share? If you guys don't know Commissar Skull, he's great. He also streams. You should follow him. Actually, I don't know why I'm making it so tiny. Go like that. Actually, they can stay tiny. I don't need them high definition or anything, because I'm just painting little icons, so it's more about the feel. It's about the mood and the vibe. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, I did a study yesterday. Oh, nice! You just woke up? Awesome. That is awesome. I think. I mean, I don't know what time it is for... Wait, what time is it for you? I don't actually know where you live. Are you... Yeah, I don't know where you live. Maybe waking up right now is not good. Need to keep working? Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at your stuff. Ooh, I like it. Love the colors. Very orange, reddish. It's 3:10 Argentina. Okay, so that's pretty late. It's not okay. Yeah, okay, so it's pretty late. If you didn't want to wake up at 3 p.m., then... So wait, what time did you go to bed? Like 7 or something? 7? I don't know. That's pretty... That's yeah, anyway. I like this image. It's nice. Patman, heyo. How's it going? I like this image. It's nice. Very nice colors. Definitely makes me... it reminds me a little bit of a lot of those... The movie... I don't remember the name. Oh gosh, why do I say things like this and then not know what I'm gonna say? Hey, there's that movie with the... I don't know the name. Oh my goodness. There's a movie that has a color palette. It's very dusty. It's futuristic, sci-fi. Has a vibe kind of like this, but not quite. This is a little more saturated. Anyway, No, not Mad Max. Not Mad Max. Book of Eli, not Book of Eli. I'm more thinking of the movie poster of the thing. Not Dune. Although, to be fair, all of those fit. But no. Not Dune. I know I'm not giving you much to go on. There's the whole thing of, like, trying to detect if the people are human or not, or if they're... Is it replicants? Is that the term? What movie am I talking about? You guys will know. I just can't... I don't know the name. Is it... That's what they're called? They're trying to detect of, like... If... Yeah, I don't know. And they have, like, essentially a Turing test. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one that can't remember the name. It has that one guy in it who played Indiana Jones, I think. I don't even know who played him. Indiana Jones actor. What's his name? Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford sci-fi movies. About robots. What is it called? Shirley... Hello, West... No, not Westworld. Not Westworld. If that's what you think. Not Star Wars. Blade Runner. Blade Runner. And the movie I'm thinking of was Blade. I don't know why Blade Runner escaped me. The name I just couldn't think of. It took me way too long. Alfred Afterburn, how's it going? Okay, so I'm thinking this place is gonna get a makeover. I think it was Blade Runner, I'm pretty sure, was the name of the movie. Anyway. So I'm thinking this is on new layer, so if I mess it up, that's okay. But I'm thinking that we're gonna have some water coming through here because I want like a channel or a passage cutting through here. The new Blade Runner, yeah. No, not Blade, not Blade. Blade is the one with Wesley Snipes. I don't know why I know the actor of Blade, but I don't know Blade Runner, and I couldn't think of Harrison Ford. I like how I feel like Blade's got to be far less popular, right? But it's probably, I mean, it's probably seen more because it was shown on TV back in the 2000s or whatever. And then in here, we're going to have, like, a city. So the city's going to be probably, like, tan in color, right? Because this is going to be the city. It's going to have green in there. It's very, very popular in 2000. Yeah. It was, I feel like it was everywhere only because it was on TV and it was, it was just like the popular movie to rent at your local Blockbuster Video or whatever. It wasn't like an amazing movie though. I don't think it was ever regarded like as peak cinema. Is that even how you use that phrase? It was just more like it was popular because it was good at the time and it was fun. It was I don't know. It was just like a popular thing. Kind of like how a viral video in today's world, can go viral without it being like the best video ever. Like you still have virality. Yeah, it's a good old action movie. Yeah, totally. Although in hindsight, maybe it was seen as really good then. Because I'm thinking like, what about like The Matrix? The Matrix was seen as like amazing, right? I mean, that was like, The Matrix was huge. And yet, to me, when I watch that now, it gives me some of the same like quality. It feels similar, and I mean, it was definitely more technologically advanced, right? Like it was pushing the limits and what it did, much more than say Blade. Blade was a more like, it feels like a generic action movie. The stunts weren't pushing the ground. They weren't doing anything special. I feel like Blade's stunts were pretty straightforward, and so it probably wasn't known for that. Whereas The Matrix seemed to be known for like, like the floaty rotos, the 360 slow-mo shots and stuff. Like that seemed like, people, it was pushing the tech. But like, as far as like now when I watch them, I mean, I haven't seen Blade in forever, and I really haven't seen The Matrix in forever either, but I feel like I would like Blade better, actually. Maybe I'm wrong. Also, this is going to be a city. This doesn't look like a city. I need more tall stuff. Sort of... like, kind of fake 3D. What do you call it? Hello, good day! Hey, Drefzilla, how's it going? And then here we can have these things. So kind of like an isometric view of these. Like, it's not going to be real fancy. Maybe there are some that are here that have, like, the full arch. Blade was vampires equals bad. Pretty much. Yeah, Blade didn't really push the boundaries on anything. The story wasn't super crazy in depth, and the stunts weren't, anything special or new as far as I could tell. But it seemed to be quality, right? If I'm remembering correctly, it feels like it was. Whereas The Matrix felt like it was, yeah, it was a lot more deep in the story, and also the action stuff was more special. But also, like, I feel like in some ways the Matrix, like, it also wasn't anything special for acting, was it? I don't know. You're about to melt. How about me? I'm doing good. My air conditioning's on. Heck, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. I feel good. It's not too bad. Actually, me wearing a long sleeve shirt was a choice. um, it was because if I'm in a short sleeve shirt, I still need my air conditioning on, and then it's too cold because I have the cold air blowing directly on my skin. So wearing a long sleeve shirt lets me have the AC on anyway, but it doesn't. It's not uncomfortable. So it's a nice, because like I can't make my AC. I don't have good settings for it. It's pretty much either on or off, and so I have to still like regulate my body temperature by wearing the appropriate clothing. So it's kind of annoying that I have to wear a long sleeve shirt in the summer with my air conditioning on. I mean, I don't have to, but yeah, it's a thing. Okay, you know what? This is stupid. I don't. It shouldn't be this direction. It should be rotated. I'm just thinking about this. I know the sun. I have this thing set up to look like this, but also, what in the world? How come this? Oh, that was 2 layers. Okay, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna need to go this way. I know the sun thing is gonna be a little bit not accurate. You had fun run. You had the fan run. I thought I read that so wrong. I read that as you had fun running earlier. You had the fan running earlier. It gave me a twitchy eye. Had to turn it. Wait, your fan gave you a twitchy eye. How come? Like the air current blowing on your eyelashes or something? That doesn't seem good. Speaking of eyes, my glasses are kind of smudgy. But yeah, that doesn't sound great. Sometimes my eyes start twitching when when they're strained. If I've been arting too long without blinking and focusing, especially on details, where I'm like squinting kind of to like see tiny details, it can get a little bit my eyes can sort of twitch, and I'll go kind of cross-eyed. No idea, maybe the eye got too dry? Yeah, maybe. Well, hopefully, yeah, I'm sorry to hear you're melting. That sucks. Stay hydrated. Whenever anybody says anything. Oh, I'm feeling sick. Oh, stay hydrated. Oh, I'm too hot. Stay hydrated. It's always the go-to. Okay. We're gonna go here. Oh. So this is a little unrealistic because the lighting doesn't work here, but that's okay. I don't know, maybe I'll have to redo a version of this. Or maybe there's additional channels here that are like runoff, kinda. They're smaller. To show the giant, and then the city can be like a circle. Not a circle, yeah. Maybe that's what I'll do. That way, this stuff... So like this side, there's like this mountain of grass back here. Maybe that's this. So maybe we're looking from here downward. And it's off-center, which is not great, but it's off to the left. It'll be over here. And then we have like these garden areas over here. And then we have a city. There. Now you make this thing kind of look like a city. I don't really know how I'm going to do it, but I will manage, I'm sure. But yeah, today's stream I think is going to be pretty relaxed. Also, I have something going on after stream, I think. I don't actually know. So, on a whim, just yesterday, I was just on Reddit, and I randomly saw on a subreddit I follow for competitive teamfight tactics, there's a tournament going on today, and I think I signed up. I tried to sign up, and it literally starts like an hour after my stream, and then the technical like check-in period is literally starts when my stream would normally end. I'm like, oh, this will work. So I might be doing a tournament today, I think, but I'm normally really tired after stream and my brain doesn't work, so I'm probably just going to immediately lose. I don't know. I feel like I'm way out of my element here, but I figured, you know what the heck, why not try? So that's what I have that going on after stream. I don't know. I assume I'm gonna get completely destroyed, but you know what? Whatever. It'll be fun. So, yeah, that's happening immediately after stream. I don't know. I don't even know if I signed up properly. I genuinely don't know because I've never done anything like this. And there's no like, yeah, I don't know. So, we'll see. We will see. Hopefully I don't have to stream it. I don't think I do. It's a Teamfight Tactics tournament. And, like, I'm not, like, a tournament caliber player, right? Like, I'm okay, but I'm not great. And so, but I think this is, like, it's an open tournament, so meaning you don't have to, like, qualify or anything. And I'm pretty sure it's very small. Like, it's a small, obscure, like, it's a weekly thing, I think, or maybe, like, a monthly thing. So it's pretty tiny. There's probably not going to be more than 75 players. You know, very low cash prize, which I don't really care about because I'm probably just going to lose immediately. But, like, the level of skill is not going to be very high compared to, like, a bigger tournament with cash prize and where all the pros are playing. But there probably will be just, like, a handful of really good players who just, like, want to get the free prize, basically, because they're going to crush everybody because they're actually good. And then there's going to be a bunch of people like me who aren't that great. I mean, relatively speaking, not that great. Like, I'm still, I think, like, in America, I'm still, like, 0.05% of the top players or something, but, like, compared to the people who are actually, like, competing, like, and like, technically a pro, and they're getting paid to be a pro, compared to those people, it's, like, night and day. I mean, maybe I could win a random game, or, like, get top 4 or something in a game of 8. You know, 1 out of 20 games or something. It's just the skill level between, like, somebody who's pretty good and somebody who dedicates their time to study it and actively, like, really get good is just insane. So yeah, I'm nowhere near, you know. But it'd be fun if I could maybe make top 4 in a lobby or 2 today. But yeah, it's Teamfight Tactics. It's like it's an 8-man free-for-all type of game. It's kind of like it's like an auto chess game, if you know what that genre is. Has nothing to do with chess, but it's basically, or I mean, it has similar qualities to, like, poker and sort of. Anyway, it has, like, an RNG element, but you just have to make good choices and increase your chances of winning by not being dumb. And then the better choices you make, the better you do. Which honestly has a lot of overlap with, like, art. I compare, like, art and chess a lot, where, like, it's just making lots of small choices, and the difference between people who are pretty good or really good is, like, they're just making slightly better choices, right? Slightly better choices when rendering and how lighting and stuff works, or maybe it's their knowledge of composition just a little bit, or their knowledge of balancing their values a little bit better, right? It's like the small stuff that adds up over time because you do so much of it, right? And you're making a million choices in a painting, it adds up, and the better the choices that you make, the better it'll look. Like, which colors do you put where? Why do you put, a highlight here versus on this side, or, whatever you choose to do. So anyway, I like those kinds of things. But yeah. Art definitely is the main thing like that I like. At least that's how I like to think of things like art. Also, thank you for the follow. I imagine some people would not enjoy me comparing art to games like that, like poker or chess. Seems kind of weird. But I think there is a little bit of an overlap in terms of like the fact that it's just a bunch of choices and your knowledge in the thing influences your choices. Probably more like chess actually than poker, because at least with chess, your knowledge is also like there's concepts. It's not just memorizing facts or stats, but there's like strategy and creativity where it's like, oh, I have a game plan that may not guaranteed be the best, but it's a thing that I'm coming up with and I think it would work, so I want to try it, and then you execute on it the best you can. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. Whereas in art is kind of that way, right? Like you can take your painting in a lot of different directions. Not what one direction may not be objectively better than the other, or it might be, but it's you have multiple good options. But then yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely memorization in chess. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of times when you're like trying to come up with like what is your goal, right? What do you do? Where do you go from here kind of situations. You kind of have a lot of times there's multiple options. It's not like, you could try to like trade off pieces and convert the end game, or you might try to, pressure one side if they're a little bit weak. And a lot of times there's multiple choices that you can go down, and they're different play styles, they're different. One may not be objectively better, but they also might be. Sometimes you just have to kind of go with what your gut tells you, because you in the moment you don't know the right answer. And that aspect I think is a lot like art, where you have different directions you can take a painting, and then once you make a choice, you have to execute on that choice, and that's going to use all of your knowledge about like the strategy of the painting. I mean it's weird terms to compare those two, but I feel like for me a lot of times paintings do take on that a little bit, especially with things like storytelling or design, where it's like, okay, you could do lots of different stories, but now you have to make a choice, and maybe if you push it to be more humorous or something, then certain things are going to change in the choices you have to make from there on out, right? It's not just to make the best brush stroke. Well, no, the best brush stroke depends on your goals, and those goals are oftentimes not known to you. I mean, there's wiggle room, right? Anyway, I'm rambling. Anyway, for anyone just popping in, what I am doing today is I'm adding some environments, little icons to a map. So I have 2 environments that I'm going to add to this map. I've already added 3 that we've done. But now I'm adding some more. Just kind of a little world building project. It's pretty straightforward. I think we'll go, yeah, add some little arches here. I want to make this look like a city, though. It doesn't look like a city right now. It looks like ruins. How do cities look from above? Or like as an icon? I feel like lots of squares. It doesn't have to be squares. Also, lots of like iconic buildings, so things with distinct shapes. Maybe like a Colosseum, or just things of different shapes. But yeah, I think when I'm making analogies of like chess to art or something, it's definitely not a one-to-one analogy. It's always like a very specific aspect of it, which is, I realize, makes for a bad analogy, but whatever. In my head it makes sense. But yeah, I think these little aqueduct thingies are kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, I think if on the surface, if you were to say, drawing and chess have similarities, people would be like, what are you talking about? Oh, it's painting? Oh, it's painting you think it's a little different. Oh, interesting. See, I think it's more the design, the direction, the planning, the ideation, the building up your idea over time, not having, just because you have a canvas doesn't and all the colors in front of you doesn't mean you can see all the possibilities, right? A lot of the things that I feel like are sort of misconceptions about art, right? This idea that some artists have the whole idea all in their head all at once. A lot of that I think is super applicable to chess because in chess, just because you can see all the pieces doesn't mean you know exactly, and you have a game plan. It doesn't mean that it's always going to go quite your way. Now, obviously, that in chess it's because you have an opponent playing, but in art, you also are like you're taking it one move at a time, right? And yes, you might have a big goal, but you're still like you can't see the full picture. Um, and so there's a lot of those like bigger concepts. They're more like philosophical concepts, and I think they apply. I mean, it probably does to a lot of different activities. Um, Chess honestly isn't super close in that, but it's because it has that it's a competitive thing. Um, but anyway, to me, it I guess it's I think the reason I like those silly analogies isn't so much because I think they're super duper accurate, but it's more because it's comforting and reassuring to know that like, oh, it's a skill, right? These are skills, you can learn stuff, and the more you learn and the more you study things in art, the better choices you'll make and the better paintings, you'll have better games basically, right? You'll make better paintings. Yeah, I'm putting little blobs here. Little tiny squares. I'm sort of trying to fill it in and make it get the feeling of a place or of a city. But yeah, we will see how this goes. I mean, it doesn't look like a city at all right now. The cities typically have tighter city centers, and then they have more sparse buildings and stuff out here. So there will be little things out here. There's also a lot of green, so maybe we'll put some of the green here. Something like that. Little hedge maze thing going on there. And then maybe some buildings up here. Okay, now that these are basically just blobs, I think I can start filling in some shapes. So for example, here, maybe there's some shadow here. Also, I'm drawing in kind of a weird perspective. Oops. Which I don't know if I like. This doesn't look like an arch. Maybe I should have made it bigger? I mean, it is kind of massive. I don't know if it should be this large. But I feel like if it is a city, it could be large. The scale is not right, though, which is fine. It's not really supposed to be. Could go higher contrast in the middle. I think that's one thing I do want to do is have a little bit higher contrast. And normally I had thought about this a bit. And one of my earlier additions to this map, this area, was not very high contrast. And I don't like it. I don't like that when I look at it, I can't see where it is. Right? So like if I want to, you know how in like Google Earth, when you want to click on a location, sometimes you can't see it from very far out because it just doesn't have, like, it's just either too small or not enough contrast. But then as you zoom in, you can start to see the thing. That's kind of how this is. I feel like I don't want you to have to zoom in to find the location. I want it to kind of stand out, even if it's just like a bright spot or something. You should still be able to see the bright spot, you know? This is just too dark, and it blends in too much, and I don't like that. That's it, you know, in real life, that's what you'd see, right? Like a house in the forest is going to blend into the forest because it's just dark, right? It's the same color. It's browns, it's greens, it's, you know, grays. It's forest color. You don't have, like, a major area that stands out. But I do kind of want that here because, you know, that's kind of the point. Is that, like... we want to be able to see the things. Maybe that's too much, though. I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that I'm deciding to do. Like, it's a more recent thing. At first, I wasn't convinced I needed to make it stand out because this image was not designed to read from this direction. And so if it didn't read, like, if this didn't read from this direction, that would be fine. But now that I'm thinking about it, I do want the locations to be a little more visible. This could be the cracked one. Technically, this should be dark. And this should be light. And there should be a shadow across here. Something like that, maybe? But yeah. Druff, have you done any art lately? So we're seeing it from behind? Yeah. We're seeing it from behind right now. Or wait. Well, technically this one. Hold on. This one, yeah, we're seeing it from this direction. So this painting would be seen from this direction. And this would be the light. So we have the light here. Oops, let me make a new layer just so. So this would be this thing. We'd have the light here. And this light on this one, here, I have to flip this image. I don't know how to flip on this thing. But yeah, if this is the light, so it'd be like this. And then, yeah, we're seeing it from behind, because we'd be looking down this way. That was the only way I could make it to where we're looking down this path, because this is flipped, right? And so it was the only way I could make it so we're looking down the path and have the light on the left side, was to have it this way. Which is kind of weird, but it doesn't really matter because it's more or less going to be the same from this side too. Like, you're still going to have these arches, but maybe this one is completed or something. Or maybe some of these are completed. But yeah, it's not perfect by any means. You've done some painting. Nice. I don't know what any of this is. Yeah, these shapes are weird. It's hard to draw, like, on a small scale in a weird perspective to draw an arch going across this. Or, like, half of an arch. They just don't look good. Also, I don't think I need an arch here. Not this close to the mouth of the river. Maybe that's why they're all broken. Also, this thing isn't like a river as such, right? Like, I imagine it can fill up sometimes and other times. A lot of Casey's art gyms. Nice. Yeah, I did for those who don't know, I did I was in Casey's art gym. We did some camel studies on Monday, and that was fun. No camel stays, though. I know! For shame. I know, it was fun, though. The camel studies were great. I had a good time. We did some, yeah, lots of little camel studies. Some blobby sketches. Very, very study type paintings, right? I wasn't like, I was actually trying to learn a little bit, kind of, although I don't know how much I learned, but, you know, I learned some stuff. Drew some funky I painted a funky camel, though. Or, that's not a camel, it's an alpaca. Apparently it's in a similar family or class of animals as camels. But yeah. I thought they were fun. It was fun. Learned a lot about camels that I didn't know previously, so it was good. It's a good time. I think something like this, and then all the light spots on the side. The hard part is translating that into a painting. Oh, the camel studies? For sure. I think this kind of thing is useful, right? Because it's more of like gestural, like, okay, here's a shape, and I'm just kind of blocking in, like, oh, here's a leg, and then here's another leg, and like I'm not really trying to like draw a thing that looks super camel-like. It's more about like the silhouette or whatever. A lot of times in at least in my art, right? A lot of times it's like, what does a and this is actually a thing I should have done in the studies, is like, what does the silhouette of this look like, and does it look like a camel? And well, maybe not, right? Like, not just because, like, not all camels have camels looking silhouettes. At least not that iconic camel shape. But like, maybe you start to understand a shape in a better way, and you can like, okay, I can kind of understand how there's some parts here, legs, and like you could start to. It's a man it's a man handling hair dryer. Yeah, I mean, it could be, I think it's just useful to do that kind of thing also, which I should have done more, is just like block in the silhouette and sort of understand, like, if I wanted to now draw a camel from behind, there's that hump, there's this thing, some sort of head shape, maybe there's like the front foot, knowing that their back feet are tucked in, like, even if I'm not doing any, it's not a great camel, but this is, I'm technically from memory now, but like, okay, I understand that there's this big mass, there's the neck that sticks out, right? The legs are tucked under in a certain way. And it's like, to me, that's useful. But yeah, it is hard, especially if all you do is camel drawings in this pose, then it's like, oh, now I need to make them sitting or make them running away from me. In like, instead of running from side to side, it's running down. Like this one's still very side to side. It's very silhouette-y. It's definitely hard. It's hard to do that, right? And all the good references that you find are going to be like this, right? Where they're side view. And it's like, that's not helpful if I'm trying to put this into a scene like this, right? Where all the camels are going to be walking this way. How is that helpful? So yeah. But it gets you a little closer to where, like, maybe now I could do a slightly better gesture. And then, you know, eventually I'll get down to where I can kind of sort of put a camel into a painting. Yeah, tracing is actually really useful. I think so. I think it's useful, especially for me with like blocking in silhouettes, to kind of retrain yourself to think about what the shape of a camel is, right? I think a lot of times we, you know, if I were to ask someone to draw the silhouette of a camel, right, they might go something like, I don't know what they do, but they might go do something like this, where they, you know, I don't really know how camels' mouths look, but you know, you might draw something like this as the head of the camel. Well, what if you were to block this in as a silhouette? Would this look like what I just drew? Well, no, because it's 3/4 view, right? And it's facing you. And suddenly you're like, well, that's not what you think of it as a camel. This is what you think of as like a gorilla, right? This looks like a gorilla face to me. But that's because it's turned sideways, and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of contour and stuff happening here that make it the way it is, right? I guess I should have blocked out on this one because this is the actual image. But I guess my point is trying to retrain yourself a little bit to, like, when you see a silhouette, imagine more possibilities than simply a two-dimensional, like, side view. And I think it's really hard, right? Like, this doesn't... That doesn't inherently look like a camel, I think, to some people. And maybe you can start to see how it does. You're like, oh, okay, I can actually kind of understand there being a face under here, right? Like, okay, I kind of start to get it. And this is like the big nose that's facing us. And then you have like the eyes and, you know, the side of the head. Like, but that doesn't necessarily come across if this is the first time you saw it. And I feel like there's a lot of like rewiring your brain kind of thing. Like trying to get yourself to think about it in a different way. So yeah, I do think it's useful. You're in a figure drawing class right now, and it is the difference between thinking what something should look like versus how it actually looks. Yeah, for sure. I think that's especially true with like drawing from life. Because like, yeah, I mean, even if you were looking at this camel in real life, right? Your brain would sort of reinterpret the silhouette to be more like a camel-shaped silhouette because you kind of understand what you're looking at, but you're not drawing what you understand. You should be drawing what you actually see. And if you what you actually see, especially from like a silhouette view, right? Your brain is seeing the forms, but if you're just trying to put it down graphically as a two-dimensional thing and like thinking about the silhouette, which I know is not typically how you do figure drawing, but things like that can get really confusing. And yeah, I think it is good to do that. This relates to Casey's art gym from today. We did blob-shaped silhouettes and filled them in from imagination. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I mean, that's basically how I paint, right? Like, I will block in a shape. Like, if I want something in the horizon back here, I might put a big shape back here and be like, oh, this is going to be the shape of something. And then I'm like, okay, well, what is it? You know? If it's a house or a building, maybe I need to think about how houses can look from, you know, maybe it's the side view and this is the house, you know? Or maybe that's the front view and this is the house, right? Or some, I mean, it doesn't quite look like a house right now, but the point is that different things will look differently from different views. And let me close this so I don't actually save over it. But yeah. I think it's especially if you start with drawing blobs, it's definitely a good thing to practice. Like a lot of times, I don't know why I'm on this image. Let me open up new file. But like a lot of times when I'm painting, right, I'll do things like I'll have a shape here, and like if you think of like a cube, right? Even I mean, talk about a let's paint a cube, right? How many sides does a cube have? 4, right? Well, not today. Today they have 6, right? Like this is a cube, right? But you may not know, like, right? If you can't see that, it's very hard to paint like a building, right, or a house in 3 dimensions if you are trying to block it in, because every time you go to block in a house, you're going to do something like this. You know, you're like, oh, it's a house. Well, no, houses don't have to look like this, right? A house of this shape in 3 dimensions might look like this, right? That's a different shape. So now we've added a thing, so that could be a house too, right? And that is just like, you know, just like the cube is the cube, this is the house, and you're adding that 3 dimensions. So anyway, I think it's a super useful exercise. Ooh, these are so cool. Oh my gosh, these are good. I love it. Oh, the frog one is phenomenal. I think okay, these are all so good. Look at these. I'm going to share these on screen because they're just too good. Oh my goodness. So did everybody start with the same random shapes? These are so good, Druff. Yes, everybody start with the same random shapes. Oh, that's awesome. I love how this one it was like a heart shape at the start, but then you turned it into like a full-on frog. And also this one, this rat one's funny. I like it. This is pretty much this number 5. I feel like here I'm gonna do something. I don't mean to draw on top of your image, but I'm going to do anyway. I'm not. I'm only gonna ruin it, so don't worry. No, but I feel like is the cheat code for these blob things is like having form in front of it, where it's like this isn't here's an arm, but it's not part of the silhouette. And then you can do anything because you could have 20 arms, right, all layered on top. As long as they don't break that silhouette, then you can do anything you want with the form. And I feel like that's the cheat code, is like being able to, I mean, same with the camel thing, right, where you oh, I lost it. Right, same with the oh, not that one. Where, what did I do? File, open. This one. Wait. Uh-oh. Oh, here it is. Right, just like this one. It's like you have all of the shape of the camel in front of it, right? The silhouette is almost pointless because it doesn't look like a camel. But it's the stuff that's in front and the overlaps. Yeah, yeah. So like I feel like there is a good exercise in like character design and creature design or just design in general, which is all about the silhouette. And then there's this, which is the opposite. This is not about the silhouette. This is the exact opposite, right? This is the other side of the coin, which is silhouette is super duper important. And also sometimes it's not important at all. Like if you were to block these in, then they could be anything. So yeah. In fact, I would even argue that while silhouette is important for like recognizability and like immediate recognizability to like see something like, oh, I know which character that is. I think for a lot of stuff, it doesn't matter that much. I think it's probably one of those things that people like overemphasize is how important silhouette is because they've learned from like character design that you need an important silhouette or a recognizable silhouette. And like, don't get me wrong, it's good. Well, yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of about fitting whatever you want to draw inside inside a shape. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's super cool. I love, man, yeah, I think I would struggle with that a bit. You did a great job. Mm, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'm just kind of noodling. These are still very loose. It's a great exercise. Yeah, I kind of wish I would have joined today. I mean, it was, early and I was kind of asleep, but I should have still made an effort to be there. Yeah, for those who don't know, Casey Snow does the art gym stuff like that. She does it every 3 days a week, I think. No, wait, I didn't know she did it today. No, wait, she didn't do it today. Or did she do it today? Oh, it was from today. Okay. I didn't even realize she streamed today. I was thinking it was just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Good to know. Hmm. Just trying to make a little city. Cities are hard because, like, I don't want to draw every building. I guess I can do this. Make distinct shapes. Something like that, maybe. That could work. And then maybe... I mean, this is water. Maybe there's, like... I don't know how that works. Maybe there's, like, crops or something back here? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's green. Maybe it's greenery with crops and grass and stuff. And farmland. And that's where the water is, so that like, there's like irrigation and stuff. Could be something like that. Like a delta river. Yeah, maybe. But like artificially made. Because like this is obviously an artificial thing, right? You have these little like aqueduct thingies. But just enough. I also like making the edges very like artificial. Like these hard edges of the green. Because normally when you don't have forests and stuff with super hard edges, right? But like when you have human interaction and like, you know, crops and things like that, you do get some pretty abrupt edges of things. Because humans like are their arbitrary edges. But yeah, I might end up changing this a little bit. That's okay. I think for now, this will work. It's starting to look like a giant city, I think. I mean, kinda. Not really. Probably need some smaller shapes. What about like that? These be houses? What if they had like a... I mean, it kind of works. I'm kind of trying to figure out how much detail do I put? That's the question. Like, is this too much detail? I don't know. Maybe the detail's not that important, but it's more about the amount of light and shadow. Maybe something like that. Just trying to paint it very, very lightly. Just little tiny shapes that imply a city. Get some light up here, some shadow here. Light, shadow, more light, more shadow. But also things like buildings that have multiple layers and multiple front walls. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to spend too long on this, because it's not that important. And I could just, like, if I stopped right now on this one, I don't think it would matter. Like, nothing would really change. It's like it's still just blobs. But I guess I could add some variety in the forms, so I could do things like some blocky buildings at an angle. And I feel like the angle... Also, we could have streets, too. Those streets going through, like... I don't even know why I didn't do that earlier. Of course we have streets. Cutting through at an angle. Now, does it have to be, like, designed perfectly? Probably not. But just enough of angles. I'm just kind of drawing some straight lines through here. Kind of like, almost like gesture lines, right? So I feel like these lines are sort of the lines that I'm following for the streets. So like, oh, here's some buildings overlapping them. I can still have shapes overlap these lines, but they'll still be shown enough so our brains will understand that, like, oh, things are following these buildings or these lines. I think that was a good choice to add streets. And I tried to make the lines at slightly different angles so that they're more interesting. So I think if I'm just on a new layer, if I just outline these lines and say orange, double checking that I'm on a new layer, right? I'm making these main streets kind of like a weird, right? They're not all parallel. In fact, they're all the opposite. And then of course we have these lines. And so there's kind of like a weird triangle diamond shaped thing going on. But I feel like it's kind of organic. Like there's enough, because then there's all this stuff on the side, which is like additional random shape, right? It's not, they're just like the sprawl kind of, or whatever you want to call it. And so you have these more organic shapes, but you still have this main structure in between. I think it's kind of cool. Thinking in straight streets. That's true. Yeah. Straight. I mean, a lot of cities though have some. That's true. Not most cities don't have. I mean, I don't know. Is it? I wonder if more cities have straight streets than not. I think it depends. I know a lot of cities are very organic. But I think even in like very messy cities, or messy, I mean like non-straight street cities, a lot of times you still have like a main streets, right? Like main, I don't know what you want to call it, like corridor streets. So I don't know, here, let me close this so I'm not drawing on your art. Sometimes you still have like a main, like, even if it's not a perfectly straight street, but it's like mostly straight, but then you have things that go off of it, right? You have like, you know, random things that are not at all straight, and you have weird cities. But a lot of times you still have these main like arterial streets, like arteries, that are larger, more important. They oftentimes are more direct, and then, you know, from like one end to the, you know, east to the west or north to south, or maybe it still meanders through the hillside or whatever, but it's still like fairly, like, you don't have to like, you know, it's not these super abrupt turns, or it's not like crazy ending and stuff that you might see elsewhere. But I feel like that's more, and I guess it does depend on the city, but, and a lot of times then you have stuff like this, right? Like a messy interior. But a lot of times you still have big main streets, right? Whether it's along rivers, the river could be the street, right? Like think of like a corridor, like shipping or whatever. Again, it may not be straight, it might be meandering, but in terms of scale, it's oftentimes can still be treated as a fairly straight, like, through thing. Which I think is, you know, I think that's kind of the way I'm thinking about this. It doesn't have to be literally straight, but these are like the big areas, right? These are like everything else between here. We could have crazy, you know, meandering streets and stuff, and that would be fine. But there's still a structure to it of like, oh, it's going down here, and I don't know. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. It's one way to do it. Probably lots of ways to set up a city. You think it depends? It depends on how car dependent. Yeah, or just how old they are. I mean, I think London is notoriously not, like, it's the opposite of a grid. Whereas, like, New York is very grid-like. It's designed as a grid. You pretty much, if you know where you're going and you know where you are, you can just count down the streets, I think. Or more or less. Like, obviously, it's not going to be perfect. No city is perfect. But, you know, you pretty much can just be like, oh, I'm on 56th Street. I can go down, you know, I can count 57, 58, and you're just down. And then you can go the other way. I'm pretty... Here, I keep bringing up your art on accident. Okay. Yeah, so like here's an example which I find is crazy. Here, let's close this. Delete that. So this is New York City. or Manhattan, specifically. Like, this is insane. Look at this. Look at it's just a grid. It's like the ugliest thing. I think it's ugly. Um, but then you have something like this, which is, this is London, and it's like, but even here, right, you have main streets, right? These big main streets. They're not perfectly straight, but you still, then in between you have like tiny little weird things that divide them up. It feels more organic, but you do have a lot of like random, like, you know, crisscross intersections that only have 2 intersections. Some have, you know, 5 intersections. 5, is that 5 streets? Right? This one is like, what is this? Like weird, almost drawing bad sign symbols. But yeah, there's just all sorts of weird hodgepodge stuff. It's a lot more complex, and like if you had to go to this street and you were here, you can't just be like, oh, go down a street and to the left. Well, no, now you're gonna miss it. You have to go, you can't just go down some number and take, you know, like you have to go here, then here, then here, right? You have to make turns. You can't, like, there some, and if you're over here, right, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't get there in a straight line. If you were in New York, right, and you wanted to get anywhere, say here, I don't know if I can do this on the map very well. If you wanted to get here, you could just be like, oh, let me just go down this street, and if you were here, you can just go down this street to here, and then go here. Two turns, right? If you want to go, if you were here, right, and you wanted to get down there, you can go, I mean, okay, you do have to take a few more turns. It's not perfect. You know, 1, I guess maybe now we're getting, you know, 3 or whatever. But, like, either way, you kind of have to, like, it's pretty much a straight shot because you can just go down the big, long roads. Anyway, it's very weird. Streets are strange. Like, to me, this is ugly from the bird's eye view. Yeah, this is a very, like, ugly bird's eye view, but from the ground view, it kind of looks cool because you see these cool, like, corridors. Do you get really strong winds in New York streets? I don't know. Yeah, I wonder how that works. I guess, probably not. There's probably, I mean, maybe. Actually, I have no idea. I don't know. That's a good question for somebody who lives in New York. You haven't experienced particularly strong winds when you've been there? Yeah, I feel like there's probably ways to break it up, whether it's at weird angles or... I live near Minneapolis, and downtown is similar, and I don't think it would be super windy. Gotcha. Yeah, because I was kind of under the impression, I assume that Drefzilla was, that, like, long corridors make for very windy environments because you have, like, it has time to pick up speed, basically, and it just, once it's deflected down, you can, like, the wind can, like, if there's a little bit of wind going here and the air current has to move, and then it moves down here, it'll eventually all end up down there, right? So if you have all these areas facing one direction, the wind is kind of, everything's pushed down one direction, and pretty soon it just, like, picks up speed because the wind is sort of, it's like a river, right? Where all the streams are pointing to the same stream, right? So if you have big long areas and a bunch of little arterial, corridors, all the wind that gets down here is all gonna go down the same direction. And unless you have lots of ways to break it up, which a lot of, like, if you have a lot of texture in there, it's just gonna pick up steam and basically just go crazy. But maybe it's maybe the like the way the wind blows, like east to west or whatever. I assume it's coming off the coast. So I imagine there's an eastern wind. I don't know if this is true. I'm just guessing. But if there's like a strong eastern wind in New York, maybe the fact that like New York is at an angle can help. So like the wind might come off the east or whatever, but because of that, it's sort of like it's you know what I'm saying? Like maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is enough of a barrier. Whereas if it were aligned with the wind, or maybe slightly less like this direction, maybe then it would start picking up because this is like the path of least resistance. And so you'd have really strong winds going down here. But in this way, this is the most like... Oh. I've lost it. But like down here, these streets are so like... If this is the east... I mean, again, I'm only assuming that the wind comes off the east. I'm assuming this is east. Then like this is like exactly not 45 degree, right? So it's like it's kind of a big, it's pretty abrupt. Like I don't know. That's just a guess. I have no idea if that's true or not. Completely making that up. I don't know if that's even how the wind blows in New York. I assume that with the coast there, though, you would have a wind off the coast. Like from that. Yeah, from the Atlantic. I think things like trees and such break it up. Oh, for sure. For sure. I thought about getting into city planning as like a profession before. I always thought that would be cool. Obviously, I didn't pursue that, and there's a, you know, and thus I haven't learned a ton about it. But I did think it would be a neat thing. Also, it's a weird, like, that's a weird profession because it's not like most cities are planned from the ground up. So you're really doing like it's like you're doing your job with one foot tied behind your back or one arm tied behind your back. I don't know why you tie your feet behind your back. I don't think I'm that flexible. But like you're a lot of times you're just using like, oh, here's our terrible city, and you're just trying to make it slightly better with your planning. Like unless you're demolishing stuff and it's like you only have so much you can do, because you aren't typically building things up from the ground up. Now, obviously, some places are, right? But I don't know. I find it really interesting. There's a book I read. It was recommended by somebody here on Twitch, actually, who is an architect. And it was called... No, actually. What is the name of the book? A Pattern Language was the book. But basically it was like a design philosophy book, kind of, about cities, and not just cities, but from the super large scale, which is like, a city, down to like the design and philosophies around like, individual personal living, right? But it's from things of like, it makes a lot of assumptions about like what a city needs. It needs police stations, it needs fire departments, it needs schools, and then it needs farms to like feed the people. And like it kind of has like, okay, given all these assumptions, here's a way that you can arrange things and like think about the relationships to them, so that when you're trying to like think about where they should belong, you can put them in like optimal things, right? From things like how close are people living to green spaces, right? You can't just have all the green space around the edges, because then the people in the middle will never see a park, And so, okay, let's make some assumptions. Like, here's some studies that point to you know, people should be within X amount of minutes of a walk to a park. Okay, great. Let's create that as a rule for ourselves, right? And then they go down all these different things, and like, here's these like, you know, here are some like starting points for like an not necessarily optimal, but like fairly well thought out like starting point for like how you can arrange things. I thought it's pretty cool. It's a little old timey. It's definitely written by like old timey men in like, you know, Harvard, not Harvard. Is it Harvard? Some prestigious university like Oxford. It was like, you know, like 100 years ago, Oxford educated white men. So it's very much like has a weird vibe a little bit, but it's surprisingly like progressive for the time. But it's still it you can, when you read the book, it very much is a product of its time. There are some things you're like, yeah, this isn't how we do it at all, and like this did not age well. But other parts, it's like, oh, this is actually, for the time, it was very progressive and it still aged very well. So it's very like hit or miss, but it was kind of a fun book and it kind of touched on some of this stuff. One of the cool concepts is like it had these what's called like farm fingers or something. I don't know what they called them, but basically the idea that you'd have like areas where like, and then you'd have like these little fingers that stick out, and then you'd have like farm and parklands and stuff between them. So that everybody can sort of get access to these areas. And so it's, you know, which is pretty normal, I think. But the idea is, like, these would be not just, like, random streets, but these would be, like, city streets. So you have a literal, like, think of, like, a New York City, but you'd have, like, an actual city here. And there could be multiple streets here. And stuff like this. And then you'd have these little, like, parkways that are also your farmland and multi-purpose. And a lot of the stuff was, like, a little bit idealized. But that was kind of the point, right? It was sort of like an idealized version of like, how can you set things up and how can you think about these things that maybe you've never thought about before? And yeah, things like, you know, maybe wind would be one where, okay, so if you have strong winds, which, you know, do you build your city at an angle or do you build it head on to the wind, right? And like, how do you orient things? And like, why might you do it one way or the other? And what effects does it have? You know, just weird stuff like that. Yeah, basically anything and everything you could think about and, like, how you might design a city. Anyway, I thought it was cool. But it's also kind of a very, very boring read. It's not at all, like, an exciting book. So, not sure I recommend it unless you're really into, like, maybe world building and city design and city planning. Because it's literally like a city planning book, I think. Or it's like city planning and design. It's very much... Yeah, it's a weird book. I have it on Audible because it doesn't have many pictures in it, so I got on Audible, but yeah, it's yeah, it's a weird one. What am I doing here? Oh, let's do this other painting. Let's do the Night Village. This one. So, a little town across from the glowing islands. So, right over here. We'll put it over here. Got the water here. It's funny, this is so, like, blurry because it's low res, but the actual image is high res, so I can paint very, like, you know, straight lines without a lot of pixelization. But here, everything's blurry because it was at one point blown up. So this is gonna be this image. Oh, so it's an audiobook? I mean, it's also a physical book. Here, let me find a link to it. A pattern language. I don't really recommend it. I think it's kind of like, I don't know. It's, if you're really into like designing of cities, it has sections for like homes and like smaller things. Like as you get down from the, you know, from the city with all the arrangement of the big stuff down to like the individual thing, like it goes from like big to small kind of. It has some like design philosophy stuff around like homes and buildings specifically, but it's, and also like exteriors, like parks and stuff and streets. But it's only very small sections on those. It was published 50 years ago. It's 1,071 pages long. It is a big book. I don't know if that's a lot of pages for a book. But it's a big one. That's the book I have. But yeah, I got the audiobook version of it. And I didn't totally finish it. I'm like 70% of the way through. It's just too boring. It is so ridiculously boring, but it is a good book. It definitely, yeah. It's a good book in the sense that it has good stuff. It's not good in the sense of being interesting or entertaining. It is interesting though. I don't know. It's one of those books where I haven't really heard a lot of the info in there elsewhere. So like I think it's good in that sense. Because it's, you know, a lot of times, like especially like a book like you know, James Gurney's book for painting, right? His color and light book. You almost wouldn't even need his book because everybody talks about that stuff, right? So like it's very, all that info is accessible elsewhere because it's just like it's so common. Whereas this book, it feels almost niche in the sense that anyone I've heard talk about like world building and you know, environment design or architecture design in the sort of the space of art specifically, you don't really hear about this, right? I feel like the stuff in this book you don't really ever hear anyone talk about. And so they are very, just for the sake of being like a unique point of view and unique things, like unique in the context of art, right? Maybe not in architecture. In architecture and city planning, it's probably commonplace. But for world building specifically, it feels like it is a useful thing. Because it touches a lot on the world building side of stuff. So it's one of those things where like I don't know if I would recommend it. I almost would simply because it's so like different. And like it's, you know, you might actually have some like it might, the chance that it has something that you haven't thought about before is pretty high. Whereas like if, you know, James Gurney's book, if you're really into art, then you've probably heard about it all before. And so, you know. And same thing with like framed ink, right? Like, okay, if you're really into, you know, comics and illustration and paneled storytelling, you've probably heard of most of the stuff in that book because, well, that's probably where they got it from. Which I don't know if that means that it's a bad book because nobody talks about the stuff in it, or if it's just like kind of a niche thing. Little village here. And little boats. Maybe we do put, like... I got a book about architecture recent. Didn't start reading it. You got the German version, of course? Yeah, no worries. Let's take a look. What is it? It's built the hidden stories behind our structures. Oh, that's cool. The wonders of engineering revealed by inspirational female engineer behind Shard, Western Europe's tallest building. While our cities are full of incredible engineering. Oh, that's cool. That sounds neat. I'm going to add it to my wish list. It's also cheap. Yeah, there's another architecture book that I have. One second. Let me go and grab it. Okay. So yeah, I have this other architecture book. I think Sarah on stream recommended it to me. It's called How to Read Buildings. It's like a tiny little book. Well, it's not that tiny. It has a lot of pages. Well, not a lot, but like it's 250 pages. But there's a lot of pictures and text is normal size. But anyway, it's like just has stuff about like it's like a style guide kind of. It's like how to think about buildings like from different parts of buildings based on their styles and like when they were constructed and what they were constructed for and why some have little fancy parts on them and why others don't. And like it goes into like renovation projects and how a lot of times there's different you might have like one building that was constructed at one time and then things are added on with another style, and so there's like a mishmash, but you can kind of understand like when things were built or where the influences were. So it's a little bit of like architectural history, and but also like a little bit of function about like why the history came about in the first place, in different parts. And yeah, it's kind of neat. So it goes through different eras of architecture, and yeah, kind of neat. I haven't read it. I haven't made it all the way through. It too is a boring book. It's almost, I'm not saying architecture is boring because I think it's fascinating, but learning about it sort of in this like academic way is not exciting for me. I like I like it if I'm the one like designing the thing or thinking about it and it's in context, but those books are really hard to get through. Good evening, kind sir. How are you today? Hope you're well, good fellow. I am doing well, Sharky. Hope you're doing well also. Yeah, I feel like every book on architecture I have is just dreadfully boring. It's probably why I don't have a career in architecture. Okay, and then back here, surely there would be some trees. Maybe. And then we need those colored lights. So we need the bluish lights everywhere. I mean, it's a little too glowy probably, but I don't know. I think it'll work. The problem with this is it's still very hard to see. It's like a small town. Nothing big, nothing fancy. Now, do I put... Like, we don't really have anything back here, like any distant things. So I'm wondering, is it just like purely on the docks? We could do that. Oh, that'd be kind of fun, actually. Purely on the docks. Hold up. That's an idea. No buildings on land, or very little. Maybe something like this. How dark do I make this is the question. Well, I'm making this a little brighter so that we can actually read it properly. Something like that. And these will be little, we can put little boats here. Little boats in the harbor, or in the dock. These are like little small boats, but also they're big on the map because I'm exaggerating the scale of everything. Nothing in this image is going to be to scale. Like, is this building really this big? Probably not. But again, that's like something that I have to think about, right? Like, do I want it to scale? I think no, because then you couldn't see anything. I think exaggerating stuff based on importance is a fun way to do it, where like, oh, this thing's really important, let's make it really big. Right? It's like a weird way of designing a map. Now, what do we put back here? Maybe there's like rocky areas, like mountains or something? Maybe just trees, forests. It's like a lumber area. Not weird at all. You don't think it's weird to like make something large based on how important it is? I feel like it's a very unusual way to make a map. I think people tend to think of maps of like for navigation. And if something is, the scale is changing based on like factors other than size, it's just very weird. I think it's weird. But it's also, there is a logic to it if you think about it being for a different thing. Like it's like a graphic representation of a world, not like here is a net map to navigate, but here is to get an idea of the place. I feel like in media that's kind of the norm. In entertainment media, maybe, maybe. I mean, yeah, I think a map like that can help you understand a place. Like, oh, look, here's a really important city, and here is, lesser important things, and it can hopefully give you a vibe. I mean, I guess Civilization is a good example of this, right? The game, or travel guides. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I haven't really looked at a travel guide in, well, forever. I don't know if I've ever looked at a travel guide, to be honest. But yeah, you're probably right. Okay, let's do that. Let's do some sketching. Maybe we'll come up with a new place today. I don't think I need to do much here. I mean, I could keep working on this, but it's so tiny. And I kind of also want to allow myself to like work on these at other times, just detail them out. They don't really need to be like super detailed right now, as long as they're detailed. Actually, you know what I can do? I can do some some record keeping. So I have this, which has like the numbers like 950. This is 949. This one is 954. So we'll write that right here. $9.54. It's a little hard to see, but that's okay. This one, I actually don't know which number this is. This one is 955. 955. The number is just associated with the folder number for my stream so that I can locate the areas that I painted in. So now if I ever get lost and don't know which painting this is, I can always find it by bringing up my map. So we'll lock that layer. Just like a little cheat sheet for myself, because eventually I'm going to lose track of like, oh no, where is the file for this? You know, I have so many folders and I can't find it. And then I can always find it. True, size of the font is a good one. I like size of the font. I think that's a good way. That's a good compromise, right? I think size of the font is a nice way to do it. But it doesn't quite like, because it's not a visual representation of the location. It doesn't like, oh look, this is a very important, like, you know, this type of architecture or whatever it is, this sort of monument type thing made with these stones, you know, it's very important to their civilization because it's also very big, right? You can't ever get that from a map, I feel like. Because it doesn't, like, you can't really tell what a city is like by looking at its blueprint or whatever, like top-down view. Sort of a small scale of it. Like, you can't... Whereas I feel like in some ways, like this fantasy map, hopefully it will sort of come across. I mean, it may not right now, but hopefully when I'm done, you'll kind of get a vibe of like what this place is. I don't know. Maybe not. It's interesting. Definitely interesting stuff to think about. Been lurking. Hello. Hello. Sarah, I mentioned you today. The book that I haven't finished reading that you recommended like last year. I'm still only like halfway through this book, the How to Read Buildings book. I never made it through. I keep forgetting about it. We were just talking about architecture books. I don't like that I don't have it finished because it was so long ago. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. You just finished it? Nice. Yeah, I honestly kind of forgot it existed. I sort of been sitting here looking at me, except I've been ignoring it. It's been like right outside of my field of vision. Just out of sight, out of mind. It is cool. I like it. Books like this are the type... This is exactly the kind... That book and another book that I was mentioning are the exact type of books where, like, you're really glad that you have read them, but you don't like reading them. Like, me, at least for me. Architecture books... there's another architecture book I had mentioned that I read, and I'm like 75% of the way through on that one also. And it's not a fun read. It was boring, it was dry, but once you read it, you're like, wow, those are cool ideas, you know? Oh, you enjoyed reading it? Okay, see, I don't. I find them very boring, but they are very interesting in, like, after the fact. Like, to have the knowledge and be able to then use that knowledge and observe things differently, and it changes the way that you think about the world. That stuff I like. I really enjoy it when a book can give me information that changes how I think about things. But a lot of times, it's not it can be very dry, right? It's like a textbook. It's not like you love reading it. You don't get excited about, going and reading your math book, but you might come away being like, wow, I'm so glad I learned math. So you're not a great meal, but you're very satiated after. Yeah, pretty much. Tin Sauce, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Starlick, just passing to say hello. I'm loving the world. Thanks. I'm going to do some sketching here until the end of stream, because I don't think I have any more things specifically that I want to do today, so I might sketch for another hour or so. You're the weirdo who prefers dry writing if it's on a topic I'm interested in. See, I'm not. I still need, like, maybe I'm too, what do you call it? Like, my brain is too fried from the internet, and, like, I need the clickbait. I need the interesting, I need you to lead with something interesting, and then I can follow it. But if I'm not excited at the start, if you can't get me hooked in the first, in the first paragraph, it's going to be hard for me to finish the chapter. I need to be hooked in, like, you need to convince me why I should care at the start of every page. I feel like I have no, like, my attention span is just not. No, I don't know. I'm kind of joking. I don't actually believe that. I just think that for some reason, architecture is... It doesn't immediately make me excited. But it does after the fact. Also, thank you for the follows. Not too shabby, says Tinsus. Outside of melting IRL. Gotcha. How's you? I haven't turned to these ages. I see you're still doing the 9-panel sketch. So I'm kind of still doing the 9-panel sketches, although not always. So lately what I've been doing is doing some sketches, but specifically for this world, kind of. So here, let me go back. Let me introduce myself. So, like, I did a fantasy landscape like this, where it's just like some weird energy void thing, and then I added it to a world map. And there's a little bit of lore going on. I'm not going to get into that. I could spend an entire stream talking about random stuff, but anyway, there's some lore. Here's this thing in the desert. We've added it to a location, and then we build out our scene. So, like, there's some cities, there's some light areas in the day, there's some dark areas in the night. And so now the sketches are now share a world, and that means maybe there's some lore, like maybe there's a forest here, and it's glowing, and we did a painting for it, if I can find that. Like a glowing forest, and we, in the forest there's these animals, maybe we'll do some creature design, I don't know. But then there's maybe there's a village here, and maybe this village, they have like logging as their main industry, and they like maybe there's a city here where this is like the hub of the world kind of, and there's all big trade routes that go through here, and it's very, it connects the dark area to the light area, or the nightlands to daylands is what we're calling it. And so like there's sort of, I'm slowly building it up, and so different places have different little icons on the map, and over time hopefully it'll fill itself out, and I'll refine things and change stuff. Nothing's set in stone. Oh, which one was that? Hold on. Is that the flamingo check? Sit up straight and also hydrate. Hi, Skittle. Yeah, the sketches share a world, exactly. Sarah says, I've been listening to Journey to the Center of the Earth while lying in bed, and I enjoy the slow, descriptive writing just described in the landscape in detail. Yeah. See, I tend to not be able to get into that stuff too much unless I already know the story. I mentioned this a few times. It comes up whenever anybody mentions Brandon Sanderson. I've tried many times, not many, a couple times, to get into some of his books, and every time it feels like there's so much random information that it's hard for me to even know what the story is, or like be excited about the characters or the plot, because I have to, like, I can't even catch, like, I can't even get into the story because I can't make it past the descriptions of the random stuff. And every time I start to get into the story, it takes me out with descriptions of random stuff that doesn't seem to apply. So it's like I feel like I need to already know where this story's going so I can sort of indulge myself in the details. Or like I don't know, I feel like I need one or the other. And so a lot of times books like that, I find myself much more able to read them if I've already seen like the movie of it to where I kind of know the plot and the outline, but then they can fill me in on all the details and stuff that I've missed in the movies. So yeah, I certain books and certain writing styles are hard for me to get into, but yeah, never read Journey to the Center of the Earth. Is it good? I mean, you said it's good. What resolution is this world map? Right now, this is 6,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. Or 6,500 by 4,500. So, it's not massive. But it's a decent size. Yeah, I could probably make it a little bigger, honestly. I probably should make it a little bigger just to, like, save myself the headache in the future of having to upscale it in some way. It is a lot of pixels, but it's also, like, it's potentially a big map, right? And so if you need to zoom in to see stuff... I don't know. I feel like for a world map, it should probably be larger. I have, stuff is pretty loose right now, so, like, a lot of stuff's pretty blurry because I'm not painting it super crisp. Like, I am trying to keep it a little looser. Have you guys seen Guild Wars 2 world map? It's kind of the same. Like, not quite the same, but it has this vibe. Maybe there's a spot... Let me see if I can show you guys. Like, it has a interesting, it's interesting, to say the least. Let me show you. So, its world map is, like, it's very painterly. Like, if you look at it, you can see paint strokes. It's very loose, right? So, like, it's just labeled Sea of Sorrows, right? And then there's, like, a big chunky things, right? It's very, very loose, very painterly. But then I believe in each of these areas, right? If you were to like click in here, maybe is this also the Sea of Sorrows? Hold on, I don't know. I can't actually tell. I think this area is this area, right? I'm not sure. But then there's like this, and it's... I think this is maybe a fan-made map. This is the actual locations. I don't even know. Maybe we'll delete that one. But yeah, this world map is very loose. Like, it's very painterly. And it's just labeled. So it's not... It doesn't quite have, like, the icon spots on it. But it does have a lot of looseness, and I think it's neat. But I guess the point I'm making is that I think... it's okay to have, like, a blurry sections in a map. I don't think it has to be super duper crisp and high definition. I think it's okay to have mountains that have pixels, that have a little bit of blur to them. You don't need everything to be super crisp. Anyway, I've liked this map. I thought it was neat. The zoomed in one feels very RuneScape-y, the one you got rid of. Yeah. That one might actually be... I don't know if that one was fan-made or if that was, like, the zoomed-in version. I can't tell. But, yeah. They do have more detailed locations. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. I don't know why I brought it up or how it relates to what I'm doing. But all that's to say, yes, I am still doing the thumbnailing and sketching, but... generally, I have a slightly more idea of what I'm sketching. So, for example, if I know that I want to sketch, say, you know, I don't know, something in here, some sort of icy area. Uh, maybe I sketch that, right? Maybe I do some sort of icy scene. Um, so maybe I'll sketch some icy stuff. Aimed. Yeah, they're a little bit more aimed. Yeah, there's a little bit more of a goal in mind. But yeah, today's sketches are probably going to be not really for anything. I'm not requiring myself to paint something important for every sketch. Sometimes it's just going to be a blob, and that's okay. But yeah, today stream's only going to be like another hour or so, probably. It's going to be a little shorter. Um, Partly because I signed up for a Teamfight Tactics tournament, and I have no idea how that's going to go or what exactly is supposed to happen. And it happens like right after stream. I genuinely don't know what I got myself into. I've never done this before, and it's probably stupid, and I'm probably just going to lose immediately. But I decided to do that so that I have that happening after stream. I don't think I have to stream it or anything. I don't think it's like high enough stakes that they require you to stream and like share your screen to make sure you're not like cheating or having someone coach you over your shoulder. But yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna stream that. But maybe if it goes well, maybe in the future. Yeah, it'll be worth a try. I don't know. I'm not like a tournament caliber player. Like I'm not like a super high level player. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. It should be good fun anyway. At the very least. Thinking about making an icy scene. Best of luck. Yeah, thanks. I'll need it. I don't even know if it's actually gonna like I'm not even 100% sure that I've signed up properly, or if I have, if my sign up and entry fee was like verified officially or whatever. Like I don't exactly know. Like I'm hoping everything's working, but I did it right before stream, kind of on a whim, and I think I got everything signed up, so we'll see. But like there wasn't like a good verification way. It's kind of like a low, like a low stakes casual thing. It's not like an official tournament sponsored by Riot Games. Um, it's sponsored by some company that does a thing online, some sort of like Japanese e-commerce site or something. But I don't care about the prize, honestly. Oh wait, I'm doing a Teamfight Tactics tournament, Sarah, after stream, which I'm gonna get destroyed probably, but that's okay. It's just good fun. I've never done any competitive video games really. Well, that's not true. I've done a little bit, but not much. But certainly not in the last like 5 or 10 years. So we'll see how it goes. Hey, what? Teamfight Tactics. It's a video game. It's a video game tournament. It's like, the genre is it's like auto chess. If you know what that genre of video game is, or if you were really didn't know anything about video games, it's yeah, like an auto battler game. Yeah. I think another way to think about it would be like I almost compare it to like Dominoes, which is like an old person game. Because a lot of the flashy stuff is not relevant. Like, I mean, it kind of is, but like at its core, there is a random element, right? You're getting there. You have. Well, I'm not going to explain too much, but basically, there's a random element, and you're trying to make the best choices you can make and assemble the strongest board with with the choices you can make, basically. So there is a random element, but there's also a lot of small choices that add up, and so the better of a player you are, the better choices you make, and you win more, basically. And so there's a lot of knowledge and skill and some strategy, I guess, but you're not actually really like fighting or anything. There's no like mechanics of like, oh, you have to be a good, like it's not like you have to shoot someone or something and you have to be accurate with your mouse or anything. It's basically just a decision-making game. There's very little like technical skill involved. There is a little, but not much. But anyway, it's fun. I enjoy it. Don't know what I'm painting here. I guess just icy environments. But yeah, it's a free game. It's by Riot Games. Anyone can play. No hand-eye coordination required. Yeah, pretty much. Very, very little. There are exceptions. I mean, I have won and lost games because of my lack of coordination. I have definitely won games when I did good stuff because of like good quick thinking and quick movements, but very, very rarely. That's not like a. You could play with one hand and be okay. You know, you could not use hotkeys and you could be okay. Oh yeah, but it's fun. I really enjoy it. It's definitely like a. I think a lot of people who really enjoy the game get really into like stats, and figuring out like optimal like what's gonna give you the best chances of winning in any given situation. And so like essentially like what cards. It's not a card game, but like what cards do you hold versus what cards do you not hold, right? Or do you keep some, imagine you're playing poker and it's like, okay, you have a bunch of cards, you have to put some back and get some more. Which ones do you hold on to, right? What ones are going to increase your chances of winning the most? And there's a lot of that where you're trying to make a strong board, and sometimes, yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of things like that. And there's a lot of stats you can really dive into. Item stats, champion stats, composition stats, lots and lots of stats. So exactly. And I'm not huge into stats, but I do enjoy looking at, like, there's a lot of stats websites, and I do enjoy, like, sifting through them to sometimes it's also, I just think it's fun. That TFT adjacent mode in Star Rail is still not for me. I just cannot get into it. It's too overwhelming and too many choices. That's funny. Yeah. I will say there is some really cool stuff with the stats in Teamfight Tactics, because a lot of times something will look really, really good on the surface, but actually be terrible in practice, because the situations that arrive to people playing the thing are already when they're winning, and so that thing looks like it's really good, but it's only good if you're already winning, and that's the only time people actually take it. And so you have to know the context behind the stats, which is always fun, because I mean that's how stats work, right? If you don't know the context behind them, it's hard to evaluate them properly. And so there's a lot of like the game is not solved. It's not just like poker where there is a technically best play or something. There's a lot of I mean, maybe in poker that's not even true, but anyway. But no, I really enjoy it. But I will probably get crushed today in the little tournament thingy I'm doing. Assuming it happens. I don't even know if I signed up properly. Knowing how certain stats might interact, not all just stand. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes certain things are only played with other certain things, and so just because that one of those things has a really good win rate, it might have a good win rate because of another thing boosting its stats, right? That's what you don't see in the stats, right? It doesn't know to show you all the the combinations, and so sometimes you kind of, I don't know, it's interesting. It's very contextual. I mean, it's kind of similar. I mean, again, kind of like art in a way, where you hear a lot of these things like, do this, don't do that. You should have a good range of values. Your darks, you should have some very dark darks and some very light lights. You should use the whole range. It's like, well, most of the time, but like not always. And so there are exceptions, and a lot of it's looking for those exceptions and understanding those exceptions. And so, yeah. Okay, what am I doing here? I am painting. Let's add some turquoise. But anyway, enough about that. I don't want to think about it until I play. I just want to play the tournament later and see how I do. I don't want to stress about it. I'm not doing this to win, so I don't want to stress and not enough real-time feedback. That's true. That's totally fair, Sarah. There is a lot of that where, like, if you make a bad play, it's hard to know if it was bad because of, like, a long-term down-the-line thing. Kind of like in poker, right? Like, you might make a really good play and lose, and you're like, was that good? Like, did I do it right? Like, I still lost, but I don't know if I made the right choice. And how do I know if I made the right choice if I lost, right? You can't just assume that just because you win, you made the right choice, and just because you lost, you made the bad choice. That's not how stats works. You have to make the right choice regardless of whether you win or lose. And that's really hard, and that's where stats come into play, right? Because you're not... But you also have to have a good enough framework to actually think about those things. And so, yeah, it is... I don't know, it's fun. OMG, yes, they used the whole value range, held me back for so long. It's what I learned in school, and I couldn't figure out why all my pieces felt samey and boring and didn't have distinct mood, even though the values were grouped and subjects stood out from one another. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, there might be a technically, yes, that works a lot, and it's a good thing to think about, but also, like, there's a context there, which is, it sort of depends on what your painting is doing, why you're doing it. And yes, it might be the case that most of the time art will have technically the full value range, but they also might have your values grouped extremely to one side or the other, or you have... Like, there's a lot of factors, right? Anyway, it's like a whole thing. Hi, how are you? Hey, Azel, I'm doing well. I'm just noodling around. Having fun painting. Not really painting for anything, just kind of doing like a dark environment. Something that might exist right here. Yeah, used in very different proportions, like way more upper range than lower range. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes the dark spots will be literally just like a few, few nearly black dots of, like, just to, like, outline something, and the rest of the thing is, like, blown out pure white, and it's like, wow, okay, that's insane. And it's, like, 99% white and 1% dark. And it's like, there you go, you've used the whole range. It's like, hold up, that's not what I thought that meant. But yeah. But no, there are a lot of little things in art, like, all the common wisdoms, right, are basically... Like, statistically, they work. They work well. You should do them. But also, there are so many exceptions. And there's so much context to those things that, like, there's always reasons not to do one of them, you know? I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but... I'm kind of... But there's context. Yeah, there's context. Context do be important. But it's hard to teach that, though, right? Like, I guess the point I'm getting at is it's hard to teach the context because there's just so much different situations. Same in, like, teamfight tactics or any game, or not any game, but, like, if you're sitting in a class, like, what is the teacher supposed to tell you? Like, if you're talking about values, you should teach the things that are true most of the time, right? You can't just be teaching all the niche things and never get to the big point, because the big point is important to learn. So you do need to learn the fundamentals, and you do need to learn the big important things that 99% of images have. But there's also so many exceptions that 1% exists in literally every painting. It's just a different 1%, right? There is a different rule you're breaking in every painting. And so it's hard because you have to learn all those little things. At least that's how I feel like. I think I mentioned before, you had maybe 5 total assignments in all of college where I got to paint an environment. Dang. Well, that sucks. I don't think you mentioned that before. Maybe you did. Maybe I forgot. But yeah, that's not many. Do you think that's bad, Sarah? Like, do you feel like that was a letdown or annoying? Or do you feel like the stuff that you learned was still probably like kind of like we were talking about earlier, where like maybe you didn't like it and maybe it wasn't interesting, but now you're glad you learned the stuff that you were forced to do that wasn't relevant to what you're doing now? Like, it's like, oh, it's good I had to do the other stuff. Yeah, and you were in school for 6 years, 2 degrees. Oh, dang. Okay, yeah. Only 5 paintings and oh, that is unfortunate. You think it held you back? Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. Because, yeah, I think a lot of times, like, in hindsight for me, I'm like, oh, I'm glad, like, that I learned it. At the time, I thought it was stupid. And actually, it's funny. I remember. So, I think I might have told this story once, but I don't want to. There's a character in this story who's going to sound like the villain, and he's not the villain. He was just, like, I mean, he was just like all of us in this story, which is didn't have enough context, I think, and maybe it wasn't. I mean, it kind of similar attitude to what Sarah just said, except I think in this case, I think he was kind of wrong. He's also kind of a friend, and so I don't want to make him seem like a total villain. But anyway, so we were in college, and it was like our first, I'm gonna say 2 months of a design, like basic design, kind of like maybe not 101, but like early environment design. It was for landscape architecture, so it wasn't about like fantasy environments or anything. Um, but we were going over some of the most basic things, like literally, like you can use points to create a line. Okay. You can use lines to create a line. Okay. You can use patterns to make people follow a line. Okay. Like it was literally like basic stuff, like stuff that you think like okay, like yeah, like obviously. And it was really, really basic, and I think that even the tone of the teacher kind of treated everybody as like a child, and so we all felt like, why are we spending 3 months or 2 months learning this stuff? Like this is a waste of our time. And so one of the and I think we all kind of were like, is this really worth our money? And like we were all kind of wondering it. And one of the students in our class, he wrote up a letter about like basically like almost like an anonymous letter. I think he even left his name off of it, but he like basically like signed it from like the class, because I think we all sort of shared the sentiment, but we didn't know he wrote this letter, and he wrote it to the professor as like, we all this what we are learning is like useless and garbage and it's a waste of our time, and like can we please move on to something more important? And the way it was worded was kind of like mean, I guess. And it was sort of like everybody was sort of put on the spot, because we didn't really, it's not like we agreed that he was going to write this. We didn't even know, but it was kind of like, is this I think the professor, like, is this the attitude of the class? Like, do you guys agree with this? And some people were like, yeah. And some people were like, well, maybe, but I wouldn't have worded it that way. And like, it was a really awkward situation where he was basically like, they were basically saying like, can you please teach us something useful, because this is garbage. And it's funny because, some years later now, that's like the only stuff from that class that I actively use, is like the fundamental design stuff of like how to lead the eye, how to, design a ground plane, and using things like points, lines, things that sort of focus your attention in a way. And like, yeah, sure, it's really simple, but it's also a fundamental and it's important. And so in hindsight, I think that was wrong, right? I think we should have learned that. And I think more time on that stuff probably would have been for the better. But yeah, in the moment, it felt like a total waste of time, because we were learning this stuff that anyone should know. But again, it wasn't about knowing it. It was about beating it into our skulls so that it would carry with us throughout everything we do, right? And that's, I think, what we didn't understand as students in that moment. Um, and so it's kind of funny because I don't think that relates to you, Sarah, but it's kind of funny because like I do remember feeling like, wow, this stuff that I'm using or that we're learning is totally worthless. Like, can we get into like actually learning about environment design and environments and doing cool stuff and like, can we design stuff, please? But yeah, I think it was, I didn't realize it at the time just how useful it would be. And it didn't seem like it was relevant at the time. So yeah. You think a lot of curriculum is paced poorly too? Yeah, probably. Too slow or too fast, or not connected enough in context to help students soak in. Yeah, I think that's a big one, is the letting students soak it in while learning. I think it's hard though. Like, on one hand, I agree. I think if there is a way to do it, teachers should absolutely do it. But on the other hand, sometimes it's almost impossible. Like, I genuinely think that. Sometimes it's nearly impossible to make someone understand the context when you need the context, or when you need that information to understand the context in the first place, right? It's like, I mean, it makes me think of like telling a teenager how important it is to learn about like compound interest. You can tell them that, but are they really gonna know? Because like they're not thinking about saving for retirement. Like how can you teach a high schooler and make them feel it and make them understand it when it's just like you're learning it in a math class? It's like, I don't know, it's some random concept. Like, how do you... It's... I feel like sometimes... I mean, maybe that was a bad example, but like, I think there are some things it's very hard for people to connect and understand how important it is, even if you tell them, trust me, it's really important. Right? I think that's really hard. I don't have a solution to it. I think sometimes you can give them all, you can, lead the horse to the water, all that stuff. And like, it's very hard to make them understand, because they're never going to understand how important it is until they either experience it or until it's important for them, or, they see real world examples that they care about. And sometimes they can't see those examples. They don't understand what's happening. So it's, I don't know, it's tough. About teaching, I remember seeing somewhere about the inversion of how teaching and homework might work better for learning. You give the material for the student to see it in their house, and when they come to school, they get tested, and the teacher helps them get where they got it wrong and doesn't know. Wait, what do you mean by that? That sounds awful. So are you saying, wait, are you saying that you're not actually learning stuff in school, you're just being tested and critiqued? But is that like more advocacy for more homework or less homework? I mean, sure, if you spend more time, more hours in the day learning stuff, then yeah, you'll probably get better. I mean, if you spent 6 hours at school and then had the students go home and study for 6 more, yeah, you've basically forced them to be absorbing stuff or trying to for 12 hours. I mean, one, I don't think that's realistic, but like, of course that's going to be better than if the student didn't have homework, because you're basically like spending more time with the material is probably going to make them learn it better. Is that the idea? You always had 5 hours plus of homework? Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty sure there's been lots of studies actually that state the opposite, haven't there? That like the amount of time spent on homework a night actually isn't that important, and like hands-on things in class is far better than like isolated homework. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of homework is not that important. Like, I had it a lot in school growing up, and I think a lot of kids now have less. I'm sure there's some happy middle ground, but I think it's not supposed to be like as good as like they thought is when I was in school. That because people just don't have that amount of energy to like dedicate to really focused learning every day. The idea is that you learn more when you're trying to solve a problem. Fair. And it's basically homework. Right now, teachers are more like video streamers passing content passively. Oh, fair, fair, fair. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that I agree with. But I guess I would question why. I feel like you've set up a probably unintentionally, but like a what's the word? Like a not a false equivalency, but like a you've presented two options as if they're the only options, right? Why can't you do assignments in class that require students to think and struggle and essentially fail at the problem solving or try to solve the problems in class and critique them and explore them in class? Why does it have to happen outside of class? Like, it's not like there's that you have to either lecture in class and send them to go home later to do their homework and struggle and come back and solve the problem. Like, you can do that in class. I don't think that the if you're going to be in school for 6 hours, that's a lot of time that can be spent actually problem solving and struggling. And I think the idea that students will have or should have more than 6 hours a day of it actually intense problem solving is absurd. I don't think you should have hardly any, like, I don't think you should have more than 40 minutes or so of homework, especially of like up through like grade 12 a night. I think the idea of going home and just doing assignments when you're already tired from school and extracurriculars, doing an extra 3 to 4 hours of homework a night, I think that is a waste of time and not good. I think that's on the extreme end of stupid almost. But that's not to say that like you shouldn't be struggling with homework or some version of it. It could be done at school. I know it wouldn't be called homework anymore, but like you can still struggle with assignments, and your teacher can see, oh, you clearly aren't understanding something. You can still do that. Yeah, the guidance and feedback thing, though, that's been a thing for forever. I don't think that's new. I mean, maybe in some classes it's unheard of. You know, history, for example, is probably a good example of that, where that's always been the path, is you learn a little bit about a topic and then you go and write about it and have to do the problem solving and homework. I mean, the whole cycle, I don't know how old you are of Real Big Mountain, but the whole cycle of learn in class and go home and do homework and then get graded on your homework, and then the teacher tweaks the curriculum based on what students are struggling with, that's been a thing for forever. Like that was like when I grew up, that's how they did homework and assignments, is you learn the base in class. Okay. And then you go home and do your homework and come back and get graded on it. And like that homework is supposed to be where you can demonstrate whether or not you know, that's where you have to, you know, write a paper on a topic, and you're like, oh, I don't know enough about the topic, and so you have to figure it out, and you have to read, and you have to, you know, formulate opinions and ideas and problem solve, and then you go back and write, and your teacher's like, you suck and you don't know what you're doing, and then they have to give more lectures, and they you know, you have to go back and learn stuff. Like that was the process. The teacher basically noted right or wrong in my answers. I don't remember being much vote. No, but that's the thing though. When teachers, so generally, maybe not all teachers, but generally when a teacher grades your homework, the next thing they will, if they notice that every student is missing certain concepts, they will go back over that. They will go over it. You may not realize, I mean, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just, especially in college, it's like you get your grade and you move on to the next topic. But a lot of times, the teachers will go over the stuff that people struggled with. You may not realize they're doing it because you either didn't know it in the first place or whatever, but like, the teacher's getting the feedback. Like, it may not happen right there on the assignment, and it may not feel one-on-one, but that feedback loop is still happening. Or it's supposed to. It should still be happening. Again, obviously different teachers, different curriculums, different school systems are all going to be different, especially in the US, but generally speaking, when they're being graded, that's the feedback for the teacher, and then the teacher spits that feedback out, and then you can learn in that cycle of like. But again, obviously with there are like certain standardized tests and things that require teachers to teach a certain amount of material, and so if you don't understand it, you get left behind. That's obviously not good. And I do hear that it's pretty bad these days. I don't, probably a lot worse than when I was in school, with like teachers being more forced to like pass students who should be failing because they aren't, it's like a big deal apparently. And like teacher or parents will pressure teachers into passing their students, or they'll literally threaten like lawsuits and stuff that the school systems can't afford. And so they'll like end up passing students who have no business passing because they didn't do the work and don't know the material. And so you have like these really bad situations apparently, from what I hear, where there's just a lot of like unnecessary pressure on teachers to basically not be the best teachers they can be, because every parent thinks they know what's best for their student. And so you have to get permission slips to teach certain subjects in school, and there's like it's very like, it's like a mini war from what I understand, of like between the parents and the administrators and the parents and the teachers. So like you can't just have teachers doing the best thing for the students, because everybody feels like they need a say. Parents have way too much control over schools. I mean, I agree. I think parents, obviously there are extreme, and that's the thing, right? Oh gosh, I don't know a lot about this topic, but that's definitely a tricky thing, right? Because on one hand, what if you found out your school was genuinely teaching like just awful stuff to your kids, as like basically just straight up propaganda or something, of like stuff that you really think should not be. I get the sense of like you'd want to be able to be upset and do something about it. I think a big issue is like, especially in like political climates, everything seems polarized, right? So you have parents, like, you're learning the most mundane thing, the most like straightforward fact, and yet parents will think that is a terrible thing. And it's like, okay, this is absurd. So like, it's a tricky situation, don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky situation, but I don't know. Like, I kind of get it on one hand, but also from the teacher's view, like the parents probably in almost all cases, the parents are going to be less informed, not as knowledgeable in what's good for their kid to learn, or like what is important for them to know. Like in most cases, the parent's going to be not a good authority on what the students should learn. And, it's going to be people who actually study, child development and knows how people and students learn and can teach in the way they want, and the way that's going to be best for their class and for the subject matter, right? Like, generally speaking, the experts are going to know more than the random I did my own research people, right? And so, yeah, you shouldn't be able to let those people control what and how you're learning. Which they are, probably a little bit. But also there should be some system in place to, like, make it clear. I don't know, it's tricky. Yeah, I agree. I think generally that's a good attitude to have, is unless you're an expert, shut up about your kid's school. Like, obviously, if you're a math professor and you get their homework and you're like, this is just wrong, like, then yeah, obviously bring that up, because if you're teaching misinformation, then that should be important. But if it's just your opinion, man, that they're teaching misinformation because it doesn't conform with your existing view, despite you having no actual knowledge or foundation in, like, say, history, just because you don't like the history doesn't mean it's wrong. And so, yeah, you should probably just shut up if you don't know about history. Yeah, I agree if they're teaching propaganda, but how do you know that if you're just a random parent who doesn't believe in evolution, or who doesn't think that the Earth is round? That all sounds like propaganda to you too. If you're a flat earther, you probably are going to think that they're propagandizing your children because they're teaching that the Earth is a sphere. Right? That's the problem, is that everybody thinks that they are an expert despite having literally no background in the subject they think they're an expert in. So you have people who want to control curriculum with literally having zero education in the subject. Right? People thinking that they should remove evolution from biology, even though they don't know anything about evolution or anything about biology, because all they've been, like, propagandized or whatever. Or people, like, that's the the Pledge of Allegiance is propaganda. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, don't get me, and thank goodness that's removed, right? I agree. Also, I love fantasy landscape. Oh, hi, RX. Yeah, thanks for getting me back on focus. Yeah. Yes, this is a fantasy landscape stream, believe it or not. We are doing some fantasy landscapes and then adding them to a world map. We added this one today. It's still not detailed or anything, but there we go. There's a little area. It's going to be that spot. We have different spots like this. I think so. I don't think in the US people say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. I don't think that's a thing anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Does anyone who has any experience with the school system in the last 5 years, if you're under say 6th grade and under, I don't think in high school we ever did it. But I think we did it in, like, under 6th grade. I think it's just gone out of style. Yeah, I don't think, like, sixth graders these days say the Pledge of Allegiance, which is good because it's stupid. I heard you're technically legally allowed to not participate, but some teachers would still admonish you for it. You did it in high school, if you remember correct. Really? Oh, see, we didn't do it in high school. I don't think. Gosh, that's the thing, though, right? Like, I can't even remember because it became such a normal part of life that, like, I can't even remember if we did or didn't do it, because if we did, it didn't make, like, at some point I just would have stopped zoning it out because it was so commonplace, you know? But no, I don't think we did it in high school. I think at some point we stopped. Yeah, I don't think I had to do it in my high school, and that was in, almost 20 years ago. No, 10, 15 years ago. Was it that long ago? Something like that. Almost, not quite 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. Like, over 15 years ago. So yeah. It was a long time. But, no, we did not have to do it in high school then. But I haven't heard of, I don't know, I'll have to ask my nieces and nephews. Although we live in a kind of, like, not religious, like, kind of, like, slightly right-wing area, like, kind of a reddish area, maybe slightly purple. And, they might actually have to say it, I don't know. But I'll ask them. Okay, I'm just painting random environments. What else could I paint? Maybe a spot in... Maybe here? Maybe like a coral beach or something? That'd be kind of fun. Just do some simple biome type things. Kind of like Minecraft biomes to start. But yeah, hopefully they have stopped it. I thought they did, but I just think it's silly. Also, like, no kid really knew what they were saying. At least I didn't. But yeah, I guess the point I was making earlier is that, like, when you're someone who believes something and you don't agree with what they're teaching in the school, I get that like, I understand that feeling of like, I don't want my kid learning that because I think it's bad. But that also, there's like I feel like that's more about like an entitlement culture, right? Where like everybody thinks that the things they know are the right things, or the, I don't know. It is a tricky situation. Education's tricky because sometimes in education, right, there's also things that go against like common sense that are also really good. But like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I mean, art is a good example where, you learn about how to see things in a way that doesn't really vibe with the rest of your life, right? You learn to think about color and what you see as not conforming with the way that, when you see a red shirt and you say that's red. Imagine you brought home a homework assignment and uh and there was an assignment where the goal was to, look at photos of red strawberries, and then you had to name what color they are, and the correct answer was green, right? Like, imagine an ignorant parent's response to learn that there's my student has to, they're being told that these strawberries are green, right? Shame on them. They're literally teaching that red is green, one is two, and, black is white. Like, how literally the opposite of real life, right? And yet this would be an example where, like, this is just something that goes against common sense, right? And you can look at an image and your brain says red, but the color is not red, right? The color is a gray or a green, or in some cases it's exactly gray, which is going to pop to red over here, but it's still a red, or it's not a red, it's a green. It's a gray or a green or a blue, right? These colors this color is a teal. You can see it in here. Right? It's all the same. Yeah. Anyway, the point I'm making is that, like, there's a lot of stuff that you can learn. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn that on its surface does seem wrong, right? And that's really tricky if you're an educator, because like the parent doesn't know why you're learning what you're learning. Heck, the student doesn't even always know why they're learning what they're learning. And sometimes you have to like retrain people's brains to like think about things in different ways, even if the thing is not like, sometimes you also learn like about, let's say hypothetically, if you were to learn about a religion, not learning that religion is correct, but just learning about it, you might still be required to try to put yourself in the shoes of someone who understands this thing a certain way and try to see it from their perspective, which might require you to like write something from the perspective of group that you don't agree with, right? That doesn't mean that like that is a bad thing to do. That's still a good exercise, even if the group that you agree with is a, potentially a bad group or something. Like, it can still be a useful exercise to like put yourself in the shoes of another person. And so there's all sorts of ways that like it can feel. I could understand where, from the parent's perspective, you could see something at like a little snippet of a thing someone is learning and be like, this is a bad thing. But also, that's a good reminder that if that ever happens, unless you're an expert in like education or child development or the subject matter being discussed, maybe just don't say anything, because, or just like ask a question. Like, maybe ask it in the form of a question and then wait for the response instead of throwing a temper tantrum. Anyway, yeah, no, parents, I do think I've heard that they are basically just the biggest headache for teachers because everybody thinks that they know what's best. And yeah, sounds like a struggle. I do not envy teachers. And also, like younger kids, they basically are expected to be daycares for kids and like also do all the other stuff. But yeah. I love how the whole argument for standardized curriculum to get everyone on the same page, but the parents aren't even on the same page as the kids. Yeah. I mean, also there's like other issues of like people. I mean, we've had this conversation here where like I sure wish I learned this as a kid, and it's like I think I did learn that as a kid. I just forgot it because I didn't care as a kid. And now that I'm an adult and haven't thought about it for 25 years, and now that I wish I knew it, boy, do I wish I remembered it. But it's like, it doesn't mean we didn't learn it. It doesn't mean we weren't taught it. We just didn't learn it because we don't learn everything that we read. I don't know. I still think that is one of the most, especially with art, it's one of the most like refreshing realizations I have, which is even now, like I was never, I know I've mentioned this before on stream, but like when you're a kid or, you know, and you were in school and you read something and you got tested on something, unless you were like a super perfect straight A student, you never learned how taxes work. Like the physical method of like how to pay your taxes or like how percentages work. And how like what do you call it? I don't know the right terminology. And like a subset of a like incremental functions where like something that goes from like x or like, you know, 1 to 10 and then 11 to 75, and then you might have like this thing is one value and this is another value. You probably learned those in math. It was probably not put in the form of taxes, but you probably learned the skills. You may not know about taxes, but you probably learned about math, right? And then you probably learned how, like, I also think a lot of times schools, they don't teach you the individual things, but they also teach you the necessary stuff to understand it. So, like, they'll teach you this skill, and yes, you might have to go and, like, connect them on your own. So, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know, I got sidetracked there. Oh yeah, as I was saying, so like this idea that when I was in school, right, when I would read a paper and then be tested on it, I barely ever, unless I really studied, I barely ever like knew every single thing about everything that I read, right? I would have to like, I would do pretty okay on like quizzes and pop quizzes and stuff, but like it wasn't always like I knew everything that I read the first time and I never had to revisit it and I would remember it forever. Most of the time, I wouldn't even remember it immediately after I read it. Like, I might do it, you know, get well enough to pass a test or something, but I didn't know everything, right? And it was never like 100% on every assignment ever, and that was with studying. But nowadays, right, people watch a YouTube video and feel like they learned everything. Why? If I was to go and watch a YouTube video right now, and then you were to test me on it, why do I think I would get 100% on all these? I never did in my entire life. And now I think that I'm an adult and I'm just suddenly magically better at remembering stuff? No, of course not. Right? Like, of course I'm still gonna miss things. I'm still not gonna understand things, especially if you ask me questions that challenge whether I actually understood it. If you just like a big general broad stuff, sure, maybe I can get it, but that's not what those questions were, right? They're specifics, understanding. And so I feel like a lot of adults these days just forget that, like, they don't know as much as they think they do, right? They watch one video, they learn something, and they assume that they know a lot about it. And it's like, you probably don't even know what was in the video you just watched, let alone more than the video. I think YouTube tutorials have the advantage of you actually having an interest in it. Sure, sure. That's fair. If you watch a video on your own, you at least have the interest in it. But you still probably like we watched a video in our Discord not last Sunday, but the Sunday before last. And I remember I think it was Druffzilla was like, "What did they just say? Like didn't they just contradict themselves?" Or maybe it was somebody else who said that. And we like I don't even exactly know what the point the person was making. Like I didn't fully understand it. And, you know, but like I don't know if I would have noticed that I didn't understand it unless they were called out. Because we were just watching it and I was nodding along. I'm like, yeah, I understand what they're talking about. Like in my brain, until it was called out, I understood what they were talking about. And I think most people watching the video, only Druffzilla actually called it out. And I still don't know, maybe Druffzilla, you know, maybe we all misunderstood and that's not what they were saying. I don't know, right? The point is that I still am not totally sure. But again, in the moment, it's easy to feel like you do know what they're talking about. Because you're not actually being put to the test, right? There's this like, when your information is actually challenged, that is way harder. Oh, I don't know what video. It's linked in the Discord. Let me find it. It was a video about like lensing and cameras and depths of fields and perspective and like focal depths. That's the word. Yeah. Focal lengths and basically how different things affect as you move closer and further or as you change the lens further or closer. And so the difference of like moving the camera physically. Anyway, and there was just like some comparative things like, you know, and also like what you're focusing on. Like if you try to constrain, like if you're far away. So there was three options, right? If I'm trying to repeat it, right? You have three options. You have moving the camera, right? So move camera, right? You have change lens, but then you also have like crop or like change the frame, right? And the idea was the interaction between all of these and combining them, right? So what if you and there was some weird cases where like you're keeping the frame the same. So like if you have a character who is this tall, you could in theory have a camera and you know, if you were to just change all of these, you know, change the lens, the character might suddenly get taller. But then what if you were to move backwards far enough to where he gets back to the same height? Or what if you then crop the frame to force the person to be the same height? But how does that change everything around him, right? That was the idea of like, how are you changing stuff when you're wiggling all these settings? And it gets kind of confusing because like you're not always changing the frame. Most of the time, if you move the camera, the frame changes, right? Or if you change the lens, the frame changes, right? But once you start putting a constriction on this, suddenly stuff gets wonkier than you might think. And it was interesting, but I don't fully understand it. I could probably reason through some of it now, but like if you were to actually put me on the spot and test it, I don't know if I could answer all of that. Let me find the thing for you. Sunday art time. The video we watched was... Here it is. Okay, I think it's this. I think that's the video. Let me know if that works. Drawing some very blobby stuff. They start the video by showing depth distortion with different lenses, and later in the video they claim different focal lengths basically just capture different scenes to the same perspective grid. Yeah, so I think what they were showing was that like it's it is the same perspective grid but zoomed out, right? Is I think what they were showing. Because if you have like, let's see if I can do this from. The idea was that like a 1-point perspective is kind of the equivalent of zooming in so far that you don't have that these lines are now vertical. That's basically 1-point perspective, right? Where you have, you know, if you were to zoom in far enough, it's going to look like this. Right? Or I'm lagging. Right? Things are going to look like this in 1-point perspective if you zoom in far enough. Everything's going to be flat. And I think that's true, right? That's true. Even if you were to zoom in, that's what you would see, right? And if you zoom out far enough and shift it up here, now it's like a 3-point perspective. And if you zoom out even further, it's kind of like here, kind of. I think to some degree, I think that's true. Like if you were to draw a scene right here, I think it would be like 3-point perspective. Because like these would still converge, right? But these lines, they're not far enough away from the center to feel like they're converging, I think. I don't know if that's actually true on all levels. It might just be like that's the area where they function the same, but they're not technically. I think that might actually not be true on like as a fact. Like that, I don't think that's the same as what is happening, but I think functionally a telephoto lens, especially in the 1-point, is basically turns things into 1-point. Whereas like a wide angle, you have a lot more distortion. But I can't, again, this is where like if you were to quiz me on it, I don't know if I would get it right. I feel like I understand enough to kind of do the basics on my own, but like I don't exactly know what the point the guy was making either. But anyway, I thought it was a good video. But I think what the guy was actually talking about wasn't even this though. I think what they were saying was a lot of times if you think about it as zooming in and out, the problem is that that's changing how big like your character is. But a lot of times you're not just zooming in. You're changing, say, the length, but you're then maintaining the size of the character because you have a picture frame that you want them in. Right? So if you have a composition already set up, right, and you want your character to take up, say, this amount of your space, right? Here's my character. This is how I draw people. Here's this character, and they need to take up this amount of space on my canvas. Now, if you change the focal length, it's not just zooming in or zooming out. You're zooming out and then stretching it, which is different than like that's no longer sticking to the sphere, right? That's not the same. And I think that's where that interaction between those 3 words that I wrote earlier, right? I think it's the interaction between zooming in, changing your length, and like physically walking back, right? It's that interaction that gets really wonky. And I think that's what he was trying to explain, but I think it went over my head. Because, yeah. Anyway. Interesting video for sure. Probably worth a rewatch from me. Hey, Roy. IWC. What am I painting? Maybe I am painting I don't know, I'm just putting blobs on the canvas. I'm putting blobs on the canvas. The eye was a mistake, I see. I should probably watch it, and I will right now. Alright. Oh, wrong chat. I see. I don't know your lingo for wrong chat. No, it's all good. It's all good, R. I just called you R. RX. It's all good, R. We're just using abbreviated names now. This was gonna be like a coral or something. Coral reef? Maybe a reef. That's what could be fun. I've lost my canvas. Maybe the reef has an interesting shape, like this. I'm kind of wrapping up, by the way. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream. But I am happy with the progress I made today. It might seem like we didn't do a lot, but I did add the places to the world map, which I'm pretty happy with. I think from a distance, it looks pretty good. It starts to look like this would be a city. Here's our coral. These are the water lines. And then in here, it's going to be a little darker. I know I just changed the image a ton. What does a real coral reef look like? But from above the water. Okay, so not too fancy. Lots of dry spots. If this is a dry spot on the top. It almost looks like a fungus. Not a fungus. Kind of like bacteria. Because the way that they blob, they kind of go in and out, and they like undulate in and out. Sort of weird shapes. Uh-oh, my stream is struggling. But yeah, I think the whole conversation around like learning stuff and being wrong and not being an expert on things, I do feel like there's a art for me has taught me a lot of that, because like you're basically on almost a fundamental level, right? You have to learn to question what you know about reality, because there's so many weird optical illusions and stuff that I feel like it is sort of a humbling experience to be like, oh, I probably don't know what I think I know constantly, right? Like, oh, you might feel like, oh, I could draw a camel because I've seen camels. And then at some point you just learn, no, I probably can't. Like, I probably can't do the thing that I think I can anymore. Like, at this point, I just don't think I can draw stuff with unless I have it in front of me. Like, I'm pretty sure that I can't draw a camel from imagination, because I have no reason to think I can, because I haven't done it before and I haven't proven to myself that I can. Even though I might have drawn camels before or seen camels, right? And I feel like that's just a new way of being for me, which I don't think most people do automatically. I think a lot of people assume they can do something at first. And I think with art, it's just taught me to make me realize I don't know crap about stuff. I'm clueless when it comes to actually like demonstrating my ability to like draw human anatomy, without a reference. And it's so easy to be like, well, of course I know what humans look like. Well, I'm a human. It's like, oh, why wouldn't I know? Well, because you've never tried it before. And turns out there's a lot of stuff you just don't know. I remember reading an excerpt from one of the animators of Lion King saying that he had never drawn a lion before and suddenly had to look at a crazy amount of refs in order to animate Simba rolling down a hill. Yeah, right? Even though, like, they know... Yeah, they've probably done tons of animation. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think art's been really good for me in that regard of just like the making me a little bit less confident about stupid stuff that like I have literally zero experience in. And almost just as I mean, it's so, I mean, I'm not saying every artist is going to get this, and I'm probably not perfect by any means. And by probably not, I mean, I'm not. But just like assuming that, like, if you didn't study a topic, just leave it to the experts because they automatically know more than you. You know, like the difference between somebody who's actually studies a topic and doesn't study a topic, the gulf of that information is so vast that like I don't know. I think if I didn't do art, I could very well end up being a person who like thinks I know a ton about random stuff because I heard it on a podcast. Like, you know, there are still topics where like I kind of know a little bit and then I hear more about a thing and like you start to get a little bit like dipping your toes in, but even then like just I don't know. Art's definitely been good in that sense. I don't like the shapes I'm making. They're too complex. To a certain point, I think it's important to discuss a broader picture with experts because they might be missing the point if they're too hyper-focused on a specific discipline. It doesn't mean you're necessarily critiquing the discipline itself. Well, yeah, sure. And also, like, it's important just to ask questions that... But I think a lot of times there's a... I think also how you go about it matters a lot. Because, like, I guess, especially online with, like, the things you see with, like, the crazy... Like, you know, like, crazy people challenging the most basic of things. There's always, like, an adversarial tone. And I think if you're coming at a topic as like the non-expert, it's not that the expert always has the perfect point of view for the right situation and is infallible. Of course not. But the tone should still probably be like curiosity and trying to understand because they also might have a reason they're talking about the thing in the way they're talking about it, or like you are more likely than them to be missing the point, right? If you don't, it's possible that they are and you're right or whatever, right? That they're missing the point and that you're the one who's correct. But if you aren't the one who's studying it, you should probably assume that you are the one who's most likely missing something, and then you should go into it not adversarial, but more as like curiosity. And then if something is still confusing, maybe then you could be like, hey, is it the case that this is how you're seeing it and I'm seeing it differently? Or like, what's the, you know, like there's a conversation to be had that isn't like, you're wrong and I'm gonna prove it, you know? Because chances are they're not. I mean, they could be, of course. Anyone can be wrong about anything, most pretty much. And also, like, you know, do you need to talk to an expert first? If you know, sometimes a Google search will just tell you the thing that you need, and you know, the information is readily available. And I'm thinking about like, you know, going back to our earlier conversation with like, you know, if it's like a flat earther or something, like, look, there's so much information, and it could probably be a little exhausting for an expert to have to like explain the most basic of foundational concepts that you should have learned, you know, 25 years ago, or depending on how old you are. And, you know, like teaching someone basic math or how fractions work, like, that's not, you don't need to go to a PhD to like learn that stuff. And so sometimes it does feel a little, and it's hard. I get it. Like, if you didn't understand that and like, I don't know. I said, yeah, I don't know. It can be tricky. Humans are weird. Anyway, this is a kind of a fun color palette. Adding some oranges. Trying to make like a coral reef vibe a little bit. And yeah, and sometimes the experts can have an adversarial tone. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's also not intentional. Like, I imagine if you get asked the same question over and over, and 99% of the time it's like not in good faith, right? It's like a a misinformed gotcha question where like, like an evolutionary biologist answering a question from a Christian fundamentalist on evolution, and they're trying to do like like just not even understanding the basics, but still trying to like poke holes in the thing instead of trying to learn. It's like, yeah, I could understand that expert being extremely annoyed and being like taking an adversarial tone and sort of in response, even when that person is actually in good faith, because so many of the times it's like you've been primed to like be on your guard from like a crazy person or someone who doesn't actually care about learning. And so yeah, it would be frustrating. I don't know. I That stuff is hard. But in general, I feel like most people are not, you know, poking holes in well-founded, well-researched, and well-understood concepts and being like, "Hey, I know more than the expert because I hadn't thought about it at all," or something. But yeah, obviously it's possible. I don't know. A lot of times it gives me the vibe of like, thinking that what's there's a bunch of these things. They're like surveys of like asking people like what are the chances that you could beat Magnus Carlsen in a game of chess? And like, and they're like, well, think about it. All you have to do is just making good moves. You could get lucky. Like, well, okay, it's basically zero. What is the chance that you could beat Serena Williams in a game of tennis? And it's like some portion of people think they could beat her in a game of tennis despite not playing tennis. It's like you couldn't beat them. Yeah, it's a famous chess player. Yeah, like you could not beat a professional athlete in their sport ever, unless you are extremely good at the game. Like it's not gonna happen, right? Like in theory, yes, all you gotta do is just hit the ball in the right spot and just so they miss it. But like it's not happening, man. Most of those people were meant probably. Assuming they could beat her just because she a woman. Yeah, but like the same. I mean, you could do the same with. I mean, not to get too into gender things, but yeah. I mean, I'm assuming if you were to ask, chess players if they could beat, or a non-chess player if they could beat a female chess player. But even then, there's people who just think that like the gulf between an expert and a non-expert is not that big, and it is. It's massive. Like the knowledge base between somebody who studies physics and somebody who has watched a physics video on YouTube is insane, right? Like, there's a huge amount of knowledge that, like, yeah. Anyway, it's I don't know why, but like humans just I feel like maybe it's just also like I don't know. I feel like at least in the U.S. there's like a major, maybe not major, but it seems like there's a quite a big like not distrust. Yeah, but like distrust in science and sort of people who actually study a thing and because they care about it and they like the thing and they are have spent literal years of their lives, maybe decades of their lives learning about a topic, and there's like a dismissal of like them as people who know things, and they'd rather use like Chat GPT, which is just wild. Gee, I wonder who that benefits. But yeah, it's unfortunate, that's for sure. Drawing these top-down views is kind of interesting. I don't do a lot of this stuff. You saw a really funny news short earlier about AI. Hold on. Okay. I mean, I'm still upset every time I see someone asking Grok if something is true. Like, look, I'm not even gonna go on a rant about how terrible LLMs are or like general information, but like at least if you wanted um but like at least if you wanted like some basics on like I don't know, a well-known topic, like at least then uh like LLMs probably will do okay. But like it's so different than actually fact checking something because facts imply you have like a substantial amount of evidence to support it, not just popular opinion and public hearsay. Like that's LLMs fundamentally don't fact check ever. That's not what facts are. That's not how that works. That's not how evidence is. It's literally the most like far away thing. Anyway, and it still bugs me every time I see someone ask Grok, "Is this true?" How does Grok know? They know from the people who report on the thing, and they know because they were either there or like you'd have to look into their evidence, not take their opinions, and that's not anyway, it bugs me. It's just like fundamentally that's not how knowledge acquisition works, and yet people treat it as the opposite of that. They treat it as like actual proof. Anyway, it's crazy. It hurts me a little bit every time I see that. Like it's not like I think it's all. I mean, I almost want to say, and this is gonna make me sound like I'm pro AI, so don't clip this. I almost think if you do genuinely want to learn just some basic thing, LLMs aren't bad for it. Like genuinely, like I think on average they're mostly right about a lot of things. Maybe not most things, but a lot of things, especially like really common things, right? And that's fine. Like I almost think it's okay if you just want to like learn some basics about, like I don't know, philosophy 101 kind of stuff or like, basic big broad strokes of historical events. Like I don't know, it's probably fine. But that doesn't mean that that's a fact. Like that's different than asking someone to fact check something. That's completely different. Anyway, I'm ranting. Anyway, I like this painting. The values aren't very good. Let's bump up the values a little bit in the foreground. I feel like I want a little. Oh, that's too dark. I think some of these deeper, bluer waters could be nice in here. Did we ever go like this? I think that's not bad. Okay, you found it. This might make me lag, Sarah, but I'm gonna click it anyway. Hopefully it doesn't kill my stream.
Are you worried AI is going to...
Oh, it's 40 seconds. We can watch it.
replace your job? Turns out many companies...
I don't... It doesn't have volume?
Companies are realizing how valuable humans are. Recruiting firm Robert Half conducted a survey among U.S. hiring managers and found...
Why doesn't it have volume?
AI is going to replace your job. Turns out many companies...
Is this the thing that you linked to me? It doesn't have volume.
Are realizing how... John Fay says instead...
Oh, now it
those
does.
who eliminated positions after implementing AI are now rehiring for those roles or similar ones.
the communication, the judgment, the oversight, the institutional knowledge that employees have, that the technology up to this point is just not being able to kind of replace all of that.
John Fay says instead, companies are now relying on AI to take on more routine tasks. So if you're in the market for a new job, there's good news. Fay expects hiring to pick up across the board in several industries.
I missed. I don't know what it was saying at the start.
Job. Turns out many companies are realizing how valuable humans are. Recruiting firm Robert Half conducted a survey.
Okay, I see. It's 30.
I
I don't like that the bulk of the thing is in subtitles. Why is there subtitles to explain what the video should be telling me? That is the... Okay, I'm sorry, that video is awful. Did they make this news article with AI? Okay, what is happening? Why is why is this? Why are we relying on subtitles in the first half to explain?
AI is going to replace your
There's no words.
job.
It's not even saying what's on screen. This turns out many companies are realizing how valuable humans are. Yeah, sure. Why are we using subtitles to do this? What is happening with this video? This is the word. And then there's like screen down here, which is different than this text. And then it starts talking here. What is going on with this video? Anyway, yes, that is funny. Is it an accessibility thing? Why are the subtitles going not at the start, though? Those subtitles are YouTube auto captions. But there was no voice! Why are the subtitles playing... I'm so confused. Why are the subtitles playing when she wasn't talking? So it was delayed. So it was just not lined up. Anyway, it was a weird video. I don't know why it took so long. But yeah, I think that is... I mean, that was happening... I think you might be... Okay, maybe. It was probably a me issue. Probably just a boomer. You know, there was a news lady talking, but it wasn't until, like, 20 seconds in, right? When I click your link, it doesn't start playing until, like, 20 seconds or something. But the subtitles started playing automatically. Anyway. But yeah, I think the whole thing about, like, people realizing how terrible AI is and how they need to hire back humans is... Yeah. And I heard that part. I thought I played that part on screen, but maybe it wasn't very loud. But yeah, no, I think that's... I mean, that was happening a while. I mean, I remember back, like, 2 years ago, there was a story of even within art. It was... departments were hiring AI prompters and artists, and then realizing that none of them can actually do the things that they need to be doing, and then they had to fire them and rehire actual artists. And, like, yes, obviously that doesn't speak as the industry as a whole, but, like, some of the companies who were actually trying to make the switch were every single one of them eventually were realizing that, like, hey, this is actually not working. And yet you'd still have this wave of you know, corporate people being like, we want AI, hire more AI people. And then it trickles down, but very slowly. And then you start seeing how stupid it is. And so, like, there were signs of that happening, like, right at the start. Probably not quick enough, unfortunately. But yeah. It's also the funding might be freeing up. A lot of layoffs weren't due to direct replacement, but due to funding shifts towards AI research. Exactly. Which is unfortunate. But yeah, now it seems like there is a realization that, like, it's not actually making things better. But again, I guess time will tell. Hopefully it happens sooner than later. Hopefully we look back at this time as just a really stupid, rocky period of corporate stupidity, and, you know, people will hopefully people will study these times and years to come as be like, this is what you don't want to do if you are a manager, is just jump on a bandwagon with hopes and dreams when the people who are actually being affected are all saying, hey, maybe this isn't working. Like, maybe wait for the tech to actually do what they claim it does before you replace people. You know, seems like a good idea. I hope that's where we go, but who knows? I can't predict the future. Okay, anyway, I'm just doodling. I think I'm going to end stream here. I need some food, and then I'm going to go lose a tournament, apparently. I still don't know if it's happening. It's so weird. Okay, anyway. Oh yeah, I need to end the stream here. I don't need to, but I'm going to. Because I'm not making any progress. I'm just doodling today. But I did do some fun little doodles. Here's a little ice area. Here's some, like a coral reef island thingy. I'm doing a Teamfight Tactics tournament. And I'm going to get my butt kicked, probably, because, one, I'm tired from streaming and talking, and, you know, brain's not working very well. But it'll be fun. I've never done a Teamfight Tactics tournament, so I don't know what I'm in for. But it's an open tournament, so it's supposed to be kind of sort of not the highest of skill levels. I mean, it's still like... And I'm not bad at the game, I'm just not, you know, not amazing. But we'll see. Anyway, it'll be fun. I'll let you guys know how it went or didn't go, depending on what happens. Yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna end stream here, and thanks for hanging out. I had fun. We made some progress. We added to our world map a little bit. It's still very blobby, but it'll work. I still want to do like a bridge or something, like a massive bridge. Maybe that's next stream. Some bridges, bridge studies. That'll be next stream, maybe. That'd be fun. Doing a study stream of bridges. Okay, take care. Thanks for being here. See y'all.